Okay. We'll go over my schedule after the meeting. We'll pick a day.
Yeah.
My life hasn't been going.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, how you doing? Good forever, yeah. You guys. I've been fortunate about this. You have it?
Oh, it's some.
It is. Are you here for the, so the RTA? Leslie?
Yeah, well, it's coincidence.
Oh,
Okay.
nice. That was quick.
Oh, okay. Well, your time was
But
perfect.
that's why, you know. Can't change it.
Right.
Hey, come on. I'll be doing that. No, you too long.
Hey, did you call back?
It had medical issue. Oh, jeez. That was, oh, well, you know.
Everybody, please rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Cantalasa.
If you please bow your heads and join me for the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our public workshop for January 31st, 2024. Our next public workshop will be Tuesday, February 4th, 10:30 a.m. in this room. Next regular meeting will be Wednesday, February 7th at 10:30 a.m. also in this room. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Here.
Ms. Frenchco. Here. Mr. Malloy.
Here.
Item number 1 is to dispense with reading the minutes of the regular meeting dated January 24th, 2024, and accept and approve the video recordings of the January 24th, 2024 regular meeting as the official meeting minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second that.
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco. No. Item number 2 is to approve the bills.
Motion to approve the bills?
Second.
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 3 is to concur with the Trumbull County Engineer to grant the right-of-way permits requested by the company listed, and that's Dominion East Ohio.
Motion to approve?
Second the motion.
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 4 is to concur with the county engineer to grant the quarterly operator fleet permit requested by the company listed, and that's Southwind Drilling Company.
Motion to approve?
Second that.
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 5 is to concur with the county engineer to grant the special hauling permits to move overweight equipment requested by the company listed, and that is ATS Specialized, Inc.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 6 is to concur with the county engineer to grant the special annual supplier fleet permits requested by the companies listed, And those companies are Southwind Drilling Company and Soltis and Sons Enterprises LLC.
A motion to approve?
Second the motion?
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 7 is to grant permission to the county engineer to close the road listed, and the road is Barclay Messerly Road. And the closing dates are Wednesday, February 7th, 2024 through Friday, February 9th, 2024.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 8 is to approve the agreement with MS Consultants to provide professional engineering services for the 2024, 2025, and 2026 Trumbull County Annual Bridge Inspection Program in the amount of $191,718 and a cost plus amount of $20,000 for services to be provided in 2024, and if authorized, lump sum amount of $240,576 and a cost plus amount of $20,000 for services to be provided in 2025, and if authorized, lump sum amount of $184,091 and a cost plus amount of $20,000 for services to be provided in 2026.
Motion to approve?
Second that?
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 9 is to receive and place on file the monthly activities report for the Trumbull County Dog Kennel for the month of December 2023.
A motion to approve?
Second the motion?
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 10 is to receive and place on file the yearly activities report for the Trumbull County Dog Kennel for 2023.
A motion to approve?
Second that?
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 11 is to receive and place on file for record purposes the 2023 annual report for the Veterans Service Commission and Veterans Service Office.
A motion to approve?
Second that?
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 12 is to award a price proposal and enter into an agreement with Phillips Secanic Architects and Consultants, Inc. to provide professional services as detailed in the exhibits provided for the purposes of conducting certain feasibility-related studies and reports as required by the RFQ in the amount of $96,050, and to authorize the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners to enter into, sign, and execute an agreement and any related documents.
Motion to approve?
Second that?
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 13 is to establish the creation of the Park District State Grant Fund to be known as Fund Number 982 for use by the Trumbull County Metro Parks. The Park District does not currently have a fund to separate financial records of current and future state grants received by the Park District.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes, and I would like to move 15 ahead of 14. It just makes sense to move the contract with the Warren before we move on to the other one.
A little reasoning more, maybe?
Do you want me to just read it? I mean,
No, I just want a little more discussion on it, the reasoning why you feel it necessary.
it would be appropriate to make sure that the board has voted on knowing that we've approved the agreement with Warren before we move on to commit our funds. So that would be appropriate to have the memorandum of understanding between the Board of Commissioners and the City of Warren before we vote on that. It's just logical.
So we wouldn't pass it if Warren didn't jump in, is what you're saying?
It would be up to the board, and I think that it's appropriate for us to know that we're accepting those funds before we move forward with that other decision. So I'll make that motion. A motion to enter a memorandum of understanding between the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners and the City of Warren relative to the use and administration of federal funds to be issued by the Federal Transit Administration with the consent of Ohio Department of Transportation for the Western Reserve Transit Authority to provide 2 fixed routes for public transit services in Trumbull County for a period of 1 year from approximately March 2024 to March 2025. The FTA has agreed to authorize a transfer of federal flex funds necessary to facilitate the issuance of the federal grant by FTA, providing that Trumbull County agrees to pay the local share funds. Local share in the amount of $296,357 will be split equally between the Board of Commissioners and the City of Warren pursuant to the terms and conditions of the MOU that Warren City Council passed known as ordinance number 13303 /2024 in favor of the 50% cost share on Wednesday, January 24th.
I'll second it.
Discussion. I don't think we need to, because when you look at the wording in here, it says, provided that Trumbull County agrees to pay the local share funds. We haven't agreed until we do number 14. So if we get the cart before the horse on this one has to go second, because it says right in the wording here that we enter an agreement with Warren, provided that we
Whatever.
already entered an agreement with the ODOT.
Okay.
We are
Call the vote.
honestly
Yes.
just arguing to argue.
Right, thank
And
you.
I'm not saying that. I'm
I'm
just
just
saying we
looking at
should
the
just
wording,
stick
though.
with the agenda. That's all.
So
Yep.
can you call-
Make it easy.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
No.
So I'm reading 15.
We're doing 15 first, and 15 is now 14.
Okay, item 15 is to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners and the City of Warren relative to the use and administration of federal grant funds to be issued by the Federal Transit Administration with the consent of the Ohio Department of Transportation for the Western Reserve Transit Authority to provide 2 fixed routes for public transit services in Trumbull County for a period of 1 year from approximately March 2024 to March 2025. The FTA has agreed to authorize the transfer of federal flex funds necessary to facilitate the issuance of the federal grant by FTA, providing that Trumbull County agrees to pay the local share funds. The local share in the amount of $296,357 will be split equally, with $148,178.50 being provided by the Board of Commissioners and the same being provided by the City of Warren pursuant to the terms and conditions of the written MOU. Warren City Council passed a city ordinance number 13303/2024 in favor of the 50% cost share on Wednesday, January 24th, 2024.
A motion to approve.
Second.
In discussion, really quick. We've been all over the map on this 14 and 15, but let's not try to not see the big picture here. The big picture is that we're collaborating with Warren. We're doing something that people said we couldn't do by getting these extra funds for these 2 extra routes. The FTA and the state are willing to work with Trumbull County on whatever the plan is for transportation. It doesn't have to be WRTA. They are willing to do that. They've mentioned that in meetings that we've had publicly, and they're going to continue to do that. We have to demonstrate our needs to them, and they will help us along the way if we demonstrate those needs. That's why they're helping us right now, because they realize that we're going about this in a collaborative way with the City of Warren, and it's beneficial to the City of Warren and beneficial to the county. These are the 2 most traveled routes we have out there out of the 5 that were the grant. And this is going to give much needed rides to a lot of individuals without putting a tax on for the rest of the county. So I'm very proud of it.
Just further discussion? Go ahead.
Good. You're up.
This is just an effort to put a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage ahead of an election. The ball has been dropped and the can has been kicked for years. There's no reason that there should have been a gap in services. This should have been brought to the public in order to vote to see if they want to fund full services. And right now, there is still no plan in place. Right now, as it stands, these rides are going to expire in a year and there is no plan in place. So though they're doing something small and to save us because of failure to plan, this could have been prevented and there could have been more consistent services provided.
Commissioner,
Like,
isn't this the plan though, in starting small and then growing if needed, as opposed to a $7 million tax and saying, hey, we need all this stuff. That's what I want to do. I want to see the need and see it grow. And then if we need to do it in the future, we do it in the future, but to do it now is premature, in my opinion.
If you know anything about transportation and the way it works, it takes a long period of time for people to recognize that there is reliable transportation. It takes years even. So now the rug has been pulled out from everyone who's been using those services, and it's going to restart in March. And when the ridership is less, because people can't really trust that Trumbull County is providing the needs of the community and the employers that need transportation, the ridership numbers could be affected. And you're going to use that, as you have in the past, to argue against having regional transit. Regional transit is a complementary interest. Not only does it help business and industry and help us to attract industry across the world, because in other countries that are looking to develop, they look at places that have transit because they don't drive in some of the countries where they're looking to develop here. It's also needed for our community to train them, to get them to work, and to retain our population. Some people don't want to drive. If you look at the statistics, there is a lot out there on APTA's website. They have research that shows the benefits of transportation. And what we're doing now is just providing for a few routes, the best ones, but a few routes in the city of Warren with funds that could be used for Trumbull County. If we had regular transit with a full service through WRTA and the voters decided that they wanted that, there would be transportation all over the county to provide for everyone in the furthest corners and the smallest townships. If they had their car in the shop or anything, they would be able to use the on-demand service. There was a beautiful plan, and I just would strongly encourage the board to move towards joining and regionalizing transit, because there are also funds that we are not entitled to unless we're part of an RTA.
Well, I'm sort of confused, because you're saying there's a hemorrhage here, that there's this big need. Then you're saying people won't ride these two routes. So if we're going to get a good indication of whether there's a hemorrhage or there's a substantial amount here, and then we can make our decision from there.
One
What we
thing,
don't want to do is be reckless with spending and just say, hey, we need a tax to get to all these jobs, and no employers are telling us that.
Commissioners, I'm a little confused up here because
And
Before I
again,
got-
I'm just not going to argue for the sake of arguing.
That's
but
fine.
You want to talk.
We can agree to disagree. That's fine. That's
okay, you guys have both had your say. I came into this thing last year and you're saying how important this is. But in 2021, Commissioner Frenchco, you said there was no need for a transit board anymore, and you guys disbanded the transit board. You made the motion to do that. And if we had a board of people that were looking at transportation, this is after they got rid of the provider already. We still had a transit board to look at transportation issues. You got rid of it. You disbanded it. We have no transportation board. So now we're saying we need transportation. These people need transportation. We don't care about rides. The board doesn't care about these people. Why did you get rid of a transportation transit board when we had individuals serving the community to provide transportation for its citizens?
I was here, I'm intimately,
You were here. You were the one that asked to
Right.
disband it.
be respectful when I'm speaking, you be quiet. So
You do the same.
I was here and I lived through and experienced the Trumbull Transit Board debacle, and so did everyone in Trumbull County and the riders we saw what was going on. I was on Senior Services Advisory Council and I was the chairperson of the Transportation Committee. I went to every transit board meeting. What they were doing at the transit board was misrepresenting their match money on a federal grant application. They were violating the tax levy law, and they were not providing the services that they said they were. They reported that they were providing on-demand services. However, the provider was not doing that. It was a game. We would give this one favored contractor or vendor millions of dollars, and the name of his game was provide the fewest services we can so that we can increase our profit margin. And it was a big sham and a fraud perpetrated on the people of Trumbull County. I contacted the Inspector General. The Inspector General came down. There were so many findings, and the transit board was awful. They were working with the vendor. The vendor was driving the car over there, and it was wrong. The ODOT got involved with the FTA to provide a safety plan for Trumbull County and giving us a grant for public transportation with WRTA because they are a credible and very well-respected entity. And the plan was, and Commissioner Cantalasa knows that, was to disband the transit board so that we would join WRTA. And then in joining WRTA, it would be taken to the voters of Trumbull County and Mahoning and whoever was in
That's not
that-
necessarily true, though, Commissioner. I'm
not-
sorry, but I have to.
You can wait. So that's what happened. That was our plan, it was not our plan, it was the plan of ODOT. That's why they gave us those funds to provide us with temporary services for a year. It
So
got
ODOT
extended.
told us to
got-
disband the board?
Yes, they did. And so did the FTA. I was in contact with Nicole Neal, who was the federal monitor, I believe was her title. And that was exactly the plan. So as soon as we disbanded them, we joined, it was on the agenda for us to join WRTA. Mike Salamone was the one at the time who put that on the agenda. But then there were some hiccups and the board changed their mind because of political reasons.
Please, point of order.
they-
Point of order. I'm not going to let you stand here and lie like this. I'm not. Point of order. Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so that's what, no, I'm explaining what happened.
She is
So
not explaining.
so-
She is lying.
Let her have her time and then you'll have yours, Commissioner.
Mr. Salamone put it on the agenda for us to regionalize transit because that was the plan and that was then Cancela Mesa and FUDA decided not to do it. And I then subsequently put it on the agenda, I think maybe 3 or 4 more times and made motions from the floor. Salamone got the language corrected because there were concerns about the WRTA board. And we got all of those things. He's nodding his head back there because that's what happened. And then the board shifted directions and did not want to join. And so that left ODOT asking us on a regular basis. I spoke regularly with Mr. Dyer from ODOT, and they were disgusted by Trumbull County's failure to join and by dragging our feet and putting us in the position where we ended up ultimately because of the failure to plan. And now we were left with no services.
First of all, there was no discuss by Chuck Dyer. It's just complete lies. What had happened was the state and the federal authorities want us to have a working transit system here. They don't want us to join WRTA necessarily.
They did.
And I've explained to them that we need a tailored service. And you say there's no plan. There is a plan. There is a plan to provide these routes as long as we need to and grow those routes.
I'd like to see a copy of the plan because there is not one. I
The
promise
plan
there's
is
no
to
plan.
do exactly what we did here. You had nothing to do with these two routes.
The only
You
plan
actually
I've seen
sat
on
in
the
here and
table.
said,
The
you
ball.
actually sat in here, excuse me, Commissioner, you had your chance. You actually sat in here in many public meetings and said, there's no money available for routes. Well, guess what? There are. And these two routes prove it. They are willing to work with us, whether or not we join WRTA or not. They're willing to work with us. And this is proof of it.
Okay,
So please stop.
We did
That's
have
fine.
meetings. We did have meetings in 2023 where it was said that there were no funds. And thank you, Mike Salamone, for working with WRTA and Dean Harris for finding funds and working with ODOT to get us funds to do this. Because we were told our only option was, or I was told at least, our only option is join WRTA, put a sales tax on the ballot, raise $7 million off the taxpayers. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And that's why I never seconded anytime you asked us
Give
to
it to
do that.
WRTA, who
Every
has
time
$20
you asked
million
me
in the
tax, I said
bank.
no. And that's what I'm asking here now.
You'd rather give
We
it to
had a
your
transit
friends,
board
the
of
friends and family
professionals.
Donors plan.
Please don't talk over me. When we had a transit board, at least, we had people that were appointed by the board to look into transportation and work with Mike Solomon. Now we left him on an island in a sense as a one-man show there, and then the board dictating all this stuff. And I don't see why we don't have a board. We have a mental health board. We have a board for the planning commission. We have a board for all these things that are
I'm in
important to
favor of
us.
that.
Why don't we have a
Favor of
board?
that.
I'm in favor of that.
Why don't we have a board of
Commissioner, you have
citizens to
representation. on
serve
it.
on it to advise us to do this? None of us work for ODOT. None of us are transportation professionals. And we had a group of people that were willing to serve and do that, that did serve honorably. Just because you got rid of a provider, are you saying the whole board was corrupt?
Are you
Ben
saying the other
Kyle and
providers are no
everybody else
good?
that sat on that board was corrupt?
Are you saying that the other providers that provide a necessary service to our seniors and our disabled, who, by the way, don't want to have WRTA service because they don't go door to door, are wrong? You got to have a tailored
That's what I don't
system.
understand here is how why the previous board in 2021 and 2022 disbanded a board that was already functioning.
Was-
Just you got rid of the provider, great, but why get rid of the whole board? Why get rid of the advisors?
So the plan, again, was to join WRTA, then we would have representation from,
The plan by who?
Uh,
But whose plan was it?
are you guys done?
No, I
Because
just want
if-
to know whose plan. You said the plan was. Who made the plan? The board?
I'm not doing, when you're done talking.
The
I'll
transportation
respond.
board? This is what I'm asking the public then. Who made the board? You said the plan was,
I thought we don't.
whose plan?
I will talk when you're done. You're being a bully, you're interrupting.
You are,
run the meeting
you are trying to
correctly.
control me. You've already spoke for 80% of the time up
Okay,
here.
So
I'm asking a question and I'm asking for an answer because you were on the board. Whose plan is it? You said the plan was, whose plan? The Board of Commissioners plan? The board, the transit board's plan, Mike Salomoni's plan, or your plan? Whose plan? Educate me. I wasn't here then.
it was.
Mike Salomon,
it
do
was-
you know whose plan it was?
It was everyone's. He knows, and it switched gears, and that's when we had a falling out because he had to switch gears because the directive of the board.
Please,
And I know
Mike.
That's true.
Can I say something, please?
Please
Okay,
educate me.
Let's start, we gotta go back and if you want to jump in here, you can too, because you know as much about this as anybody. But anyways, regarding the Trumbull County Transit Board, while it was dissolved, there's a combination of things. When I started back in 18, one of the very first thing that the vendor did was pull money away. He pulled I believe it was $287,000 from us, from the board. He pulled that. That was back in 18. Okay.
Did the vendor work for the board?
No,
Or
no, what it was, the vendor told, this was for, the money he pulled was money for the school board. And he pulled a contract that we were getting from the school board for $287,000 and he took it on himself. Now, we continued running for 6 months with that. But at the end of the 6 months, we lost that money. And I remember this because I was interviewed by somebody saying, how's that gonna hurt? It's gonna hurt us, but we'll still manage because we still had a lot of funding coming in. So that was number one. Number two, the general public or what were they called? The groups for the public. They started pulling out. The money that we got,
Participating communities.
thank you. I can't,
It's okay.
partisan
I remember
community,
everything.
community started pulling out because they don't want to put money into this. So we're starting to lose money a little bit at a time. Then what happened was City of Warren, who was the 5307 designee, decided they didn't want this anymore and they pulled out. Now we just lost the 5307 money. And when you lose the 5307 funding, you also lose everything that you've said, the state and the other funding. So what's happening now, we've lost funding, let's say over a year, or whatever. So the decision was, yes, dissolve the board and join WRTA. That's what the decision, it was a group decision. Dean Harris was here multiple times with myself and things, and he had his lawyers looking into this. The further we got into it, there were a couple of things the commissioners wanted. One was to have a board that was half and half, and it
Full
wasn't all.
representation between us
Right.
and Mahoning County.
So that Dean said, yeah, we can do that. And there was something else I can't remember that Dean did. But anyways, Dean was very cooperative with whatever the board
Was very
wanted.
cooperative until his attorneys told him he couldn't.
Well, no, what happened was,
We have misrepresentation on the
Yeah,
board. We'd have,
Marm, let him
I'm-
speak,
no.
please.
So what happened was there were two things that came up from the lawyer, which said to join an RTA in Ohio, you have to do the exact same sales tax as they do, plus the voting population is both Mahoney and Trumbull County. We didn't know this going in. We found this out after the fact.
absolutely.
Everyone didn't know.
Okay,
You
I'm,
might not
I'm just
know,
saying,
but
okay, so that's
lot of
the
people didn't.
reason the board said, we're not gonna join WRTA because they didn't want to put a $6 or $7 million, a 1/4% sales tax.
Well,
on.
Sense.
it just makes sense. If you look at Mahoning County, they're larger than us. They have a larger population. Why are we giving the same amount of sales tax? Why does the same amount of sales tax have to be to join WRTA? And second of all, why don't we have the same representation on the board if we're giving the same amount of sales tax? These are questions that I said in the very beginning. If we get clarity out of this, I would be able to at least entertain this.
Right.
I've never gotten any clarity out of this.
Right, so that was why, that's what
And-
happened,
Trumbull County wouldn't determine its own destiny.
right? So,
And I gotta say, still this day, I've never met Dean Harris. Couldn't tell you
I
what he
know.
looked like. He's never sat out here in a meeting.
Yeah.
He's never had a meeting with me. He's never approached the board. So
Phone call.
WRTA is absolutely zero relationship with me.
right, so like I said, if you would like, I'd be glad to meet.
We've
with
said
you.
that before. I've heard that since I got elected.
Right, but I've
It's
asked
never
you,
happened
if you
yet.
want me to meet, I will set up a meeting with you.
So the point is, there are three key reasons why the board looked at this and said no
Right.
for the benefit of Trumbull County. Now, whether or not we can get this fixed legislatively, whether or not this can be done through lawyers or what, I'm willing to entertain it. But
Right.
until those three measures are, I'm not going to have Trumbull County be a lapdog for Mahoning County. I'm not.
It's
Right.
not-
And that's where it brings us to this, what we
That's
did here
reality.
today.
So the next question.
This isn't a Band-Aid on
Mahoning-
hemorrhage.
Well,
This
yeah.
is a
County to
solution
determine our
for a
destiny.
problem. This is a solution for a problem that we had that people said we couldn't do. We got two routes back, and it is WRTA. Over the next year, I hope that we can get together as a board and as a community and look at all the options on the table. WRTA, private individuals, public sectors, other RTA options. We can't say we quit, we're done.
Creating our
You know,
own RTA.
We're packing up our toys and we're going home. We're not doing that.
We-
We have a year to get
Yes,
this
of
thing
course.
done.
Well,
a
that's-
year.
yeah,
Creating
that
our
was
own
the idea.
RTA.
I mean, if you want to call it a Band-Aid, that's fine. I'll call it a Band-Aid. That we've got 1 year to figure out what we're gonna do. So, and there is a plan in place, and I have, it's typed up. A, to join WRTA. B, the commissioners run it. C, which is another one, is we make our own make our own RTA, which we can do that. And that I've already called Bill Danzo. I'm gonna have to come to you though and find out which plan you want to go with.
And all that funding that Commissioner Frenchco talks about would be eligible for this RTA just as it
Well,
would for the other.
Correct. So then the step two would be whichever one we decide to go with, then we have to go and become a 5307 designee.
Exactly.
So
There-
that's part
there-
2 to
there-
this.
If Warren did it before, we could.
No, no, it's not what you think. And you know that you'll be gone. You'll be retired by then and we'll be stuck here screwed. You know, no, offense, you know,
No.
I'm not being,
No, I know what
Mary,
you're saying.
but the reality is starting up an RTA is not an easy process.
No.
And no one trusts Trumbull County to run transit. That's why the board was disbanded in the first place because of the debacle that we all.
No one trusts
The people on the board were untrustworthy.
Board.
Ben Kyle, and other people on the board were untrustworthy.
Ben Kyle, he wasn't even on the transit board, sweetie.
Well, yeah, how many people were on the transit board? Who did you have back then
him.
were making decisions?
You
Senior
have
levy
people-
board, transit
You
board.
have no idea what you're talking
He
about.
said they were all corrupt.
You said they were all corrupt. People on the transit, we'll provide who the
Okay.
transit board members were after the meeting.
The reality is they were all kind of in bed with the vendor. And we know that's one of the problems that was going on. And the reality is the person who is the lobbyist and the advocate for them is Mike Verich, who the two of them just endorsed recently for the Howland Township thing. There's a lot of cozy relationships going on here in Trumbull County. One of them is between these two and Mike Verich. And then additionally,
We supported him for office.
those other vendors that we're talking about are lobbying the Board of Commissioners not to join because they think that it will somehow adversely affect the services that they deliver. But it absolutely will not affect the services they deliver because
my
there
God.
will still be.
We had a meeting that just said that, the opposite. You did, yes, we did.
I'm inviting you to speak because as we set precedent last week, the commissioners are allowed to invite people. And I'd like to hear
Sure.
from both of you, including Ms. Roth, if that's
Can I
okay.
just say?
Yeah, finish
let-
up, Mike.
Let me finish up.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry. So the bottom line would be 1, 2, or 3, whatever's decided, then we move on from there. So yes, we do have a plan. The other part that
They're options, not plan, not really a plan once you get in place. Those are just options.
Your plan is to put it on the ballot. What's your second plan when it
okay,
fails?
those are the options, that's fine.
Not us.
But the
I
thing I
really-
want to say
I'm
is
sorry, I
this.
just need to correct him. And everyone seems to think, I don't know if you guys are confused. It would be WRTA. Here's how this would happen. We would join WRTA and then WRTA would be the one who would be putting that on. It would not be. a
So your
county
hands are
tax.
clean on the tax. It's not me, it's
You're
WRTA.
just
It's
giving
not
them
me.
the ability to do it.
It would not be us. It would be
Yeah.
them because they're the
You're
ones.
sitting here advocating for
they're-
them every
They're
week.
the ones administering and there would be the ones responsible for the oversight and.
If there's a cozy relationship, it's between you and WRTA.
So anyways, the other thing I would like to say is this.
Okay.
Regarding the FTA and ODOT for us making decisions, I've been told by multiple people, multiple times, this is always a local decision.
Exactly.
They can tell us, they can suggest to us, but this is a local decision.
you.
So FTA actually came down here and was doing a review of our system at the time, and I was here. We had 21, 22 findings. And when I was there at the table with the FTA, somebody from the vendor gave numbers to the person from FTA. She crumbled up and threw it away. She goes, these numbers are no good. FTA already had an idea what they want to do. They were not about to come in and shut us down though. They did an inspection like you said, but the bottom line is it was our decision to make. And that was a decision we had to make at that point.
Strong armed the transit board into doing that and the communities here because they made them unfundable. So once they became unfundable because they couldn't shut them down, we had to start looking at other avenues.
Right.
And that's what happened.
That's
I mean, that's a lot of findings, 20-something findings.
22
for-
findings.
22 findings from our.
Whatever it
our
was,
transit
yeah.
board. We were not following policies and procedures and then we ended up.
Were the
turning it
rides
over.
given? Were the rides given?
I'm not gonna say yes or no. I mean,
Were the rides given?
during that time,
No.
What we got,
We don't
what
know.
did the FTA say?
I mean, we don't know.
I'm curious.
I
no,
mean, one
they
thing
were-
we do,
they weren't
one thing I've
covered.
heard, I wasn't here. But one thing I've heard, they transport a dead person.
Okay, well,
One thing I heard is there was an audit finding, we had to pay the vendor more money.
we did.
Yeah,
We did.
they did.
Because they actually provided the rides.
So there was just a lot going on.
There's a lot of misinformation, a
Yeah.
lot of different avenues to this.
That's an issue in public spending.
Can I have you, both of
Come on,
you
Jen.
speak as well?
Can I just say what I was gonna say? It's just. they will
Yes.
shine me through the
Yes.
eyes. It seems
Yeah,
redundant.
sure.
Okay.
Okay, put your name too, please.
Janet Hazlett, I live in Warren. And. The numbers from last year.
Thank you for being here. No.
There were problems with the last transit board.
We
It
recognize.
wasn't, yes. So it wasn't just, there were issues, important issues, that it was dissolved. It's why the other people were pulling out too. Okay, I'd like to report the numbers from WRTA for Trumbull County. The Warren Express last year provided 162,462 rides. I took one of those trips and it had to do with a car that needed to be repaired and I jumped on the bus and it was not a problem. The two routes that are being restored provided a combined 25,591 rides in about 8 months. The three routes that have disappeared provided 14,630 rides in about 8 months. The lowest ridership was the North Jackson Express, but that ride just ran a few times a day, but it was almost exclusively for jobs. People were going to work. I'd like to suggest that the commissioners go to WRTA in Youngstown, see how it functions, see the garage, see Federal Station downtown, and make sure you see the plans that they have for the renovations. Mahoning County is about 225,000. Trumbull County is about 200,000. There isn't a huge difference in population. How the population exists is different, which means the design of transit would be different. And I don't know why the senior levy rides would go away. Why
It
would
wouldn't
they?
go away. That's the problem.
Okay, but
Is the
isn't that?
seniors are used to those other providers.
Yeah.
So
and
why are we paying $7 million for a system that's not comprehensive?
Speak, please, and be respectful
Because
of one
She's
minute.
asking me a
if you
question.
if you go, oh, and the other thing is today, this is a coincidence. The Business Journal is celebrating their 40th anniversary. Today in the Business Journal, the first story is about the first story 40 years ago, and it was all about WRTA. This is a business publication. They saw the importance of transit involving business today and 40 years ago. This isn't stuff that's made up.
40 years ago was a totally different time. than
Right. And what
now.
does that have to do with the people in Kinsman and in Mesopotamia and Mecca and Champion?
Years ago, this place was a lot
ago.
different.
Warren
Gaslighting
did
people.
not have transit 40 years ago. Warren did not have transit.
How did people
Yeah,
survive?
How'd they get
without
the
it?
GM?
Gaslighting, please stop being
They did not have public transit 40
narcissistic
years ago.
abusers.
I've lived here all my life. I know.
Right. But we had General Motors with a workforce that was huge, but much bigger than it is today. We had the steel mills much bigger than what it is
When I-
today. People got to work.
Okay, and
How
let's
did they
go
get to
back a
work?
few years old. I'm very old, okay? I'm very old. I grew up on Larchmont. Packard was up there, the Golden Triangle, everything. There were dedicated buses just to take people there. Dedicated buses. There were dedicated, the school system did not, in Warren, did not have busing. They did it through transit. I went to Turner and got on a public bus because they had an agreement with the school system. Understanding, you have to understand the transition of busing. And you can say General Motors is there. A lot of people in Mahoning County worked at General Motors, but Mahoning County always had busing. And at the time, 40 years ago, it was all funded through the city of Youngstown. WRTA, when they're talking about WRTA passing the levy, they have a levy that they passed, it was probably about 10 years ago, that then funded the entire county and it went to a sales tax. Prior to that, it was just Youngstown. So that's why WRTA does it. That's a permanent levy right now. But there's your history lesson. It's, yeah, and in this day and age, young people cannot afford cars. They don't necessarily want to drive. They can't afford. You could, I'm old, so I know. Bob will tell you.
You're
People
old,
used
so
to
you know what
pay
young
for
people?
cards. What?
I'm curious. You said you're old, so you know? What does that mean?
Yes, because I've lived a life. I'm older than you, so I've
I
lived
understand
a
that, but
different existence.
What does that have to do with knowing what young people want?
If you look at the APTA statistics, and she's referencing something that I've read that the young people don't
Correct,
want to.
correct,
Even
that's
if
right.
They can
They
afford
could-
to, they prefer not to own a car.
It's,
That's-
They
that's
want
a-
to have
that's
everyone
a-
else pay.
They
for
prefer for
transportation.
taxpayers to pay for their rides.
no,
Yeah.
it's, if
for the economy.
if people paid 50 years ago, 60 years ago, I just find it offensive that that just certain people need the public to pay for their ride.
Right.
Because that's what you're saying. If you're saying the senior levy's okay, I'm a senior. I have no business calling for a ride, no business at all. Oh, and this has nothing to do with this, but if I'm not going to speak again, I want to say something. This is totally different. Car racing is starting again. And Ryan Blaney is the NASCAR champion. And he's from Hartford Township. And his family owns a business in Trumbull County. And I don't know that this has been acknowledged or recognized at all.
We did bring up in a workshop, we're gonna have a Blaney Family Day in Trumbull County
Okay, yeah.
and recognize not only him,
With
but his grandfather, his
Thank you.
grandmother for
Thank you,
serving the
because it's
county.
starting in another week, and I thought about that. And that's nothing to do with this. We're talking about cars, but thank you for that. That's good. Anyway, there's a history and understanding how transit works, why it works, and what goes on is important. So I think that you can't just off the cuff say something without actually studying it and knowing what's going on. So,
I'm going to say one
thank
last
you.
thing, and this needs to be repeated. Trumbull County gives hundreds of thousands of rides. We don't have to give any. By mandate, we're not, counties do not have to provide transportation to anyone. We give hundreds of thousands of rides every year, and we're adding more this year. So yes, we are. We're not. You don't think these 2 new routes are going to add rides? We give hundreds of thousands of rides every year. So please, because we don't have general population rides for every single person, does not mean we don't provide transportation to people. There's a difference. I just want to make that clear because we're talking about transportation and saying overarching.
There's no transportation services for the general public outside of those who will be catching those 2 routes, period.
Warren Express, 3 routes.
Right,
Again,
and that's paid for
That is.
by, which is.
Those are the
another
most
thing.
traveled, correct?
Correct,
even have
but
the data.
WRTA supplies that route that comes in here.
WRTA has $20 million in the bank that they haven't touched. Go look it up.
Okay.
And you want to give them another 7 million a year.
That's not, that money does not, are you unable to comprehend that their money in the bank is not allowed to be used for Trumbull County? Do you get that?
Correct.
It's used for the Warren Express.
Right,
That's a-
because it provides, it
that's a
starts in
CMAQ, yeah.
Youngstown and it
That's okay. We-
provides some of their rides.
That's fine, but we're benefiting from it.
You have to understand.
Yeah,
grants
and the
I
disrespect
completely
shown when you're.
There's a lot of
benefiting from
individuals
it.
in Mahoning County that are upset with WRTA. Let me tell you, I've done my research. There's a lot of township trustees that don't want WRTA here. I've done my research. Trust me.
I was there when, okay,
I'm just telling you.
I've been attending their meetings for a dozen years. So I know well when the levy went on, I know all the discussions that went on, I know all of that. The levy passed countywide 3 times, easily 3 times. And the last one was a permanent one. So the people, the trustees might be telling you something, but the people in Mahoning County voted for it overwhelmingly.
I've talked to the commissioners in Mahoning County, and by the way, I don't think the Board of Commissioners is here to empire build for WRTA, and that's exactly what they want. $7 million in services that we don't need. They still have to demonstrate to us how $7 million in services that we need here, when we have 5 routes here, that 3 of them we don't need
You can.
by this.
Yeah,
What are we gonna have? Can I speak, please? Are we gonna have 12 routes that are gonna be empty?
Are
You,
you?
I could see a
you-
route starting.
Wait a second, I
let's
need to say
in
something. He was,
Niles. Let's
no,
say-
hang on. I gotta say something. You were here when, and you're asking dumb questions that you know the answer to, because we had a
go.
presentation. We had
You always
a,
have to get personal.
stop. We had a presentation. You're sitting here assuming that everyone forgot what had happened 2 years ago. You have a complete plan of how the $7 million or $6 million or however much would be
You have to
spent.
build
It's spent, but
facilities,
Still,
build facilities for WRTA. And
I
how's that
wasn't here.
benefiting
I
anybody?
wasn't here to.
that is an investment in our community. We would have a vehicle.
It's an investment with
Hang on.
tax dollars.
We would have a vehicle barn. We would have a transit hub. There would be services provided all over the
We have a
county.
vehicle barn, everyone,
I wasn't here.
for $7 million.
develop an entire block of downtown Warren, provide services that would stimulate economic development, but you're gonna pretend like you don't know what they were gonna do.
Stimulate economic development through tax is not stimulating the
Tell
economy.
you,
I could tell you that I have had businesses reach out to me because guess what the number one reason why people call off work is? Because they
I
have
know-
car troubles.
I know that the mayor of Niles is interested.
Yes.
I know that the mayor of Gerard was interested. I know that the mayor of Hubbard was interested.
Let them pay.
So I was.
Let them pay. Let them come to the
Let
table
those-
with a
let
paycheck.
those- Let
And then
those,
we'll entertain that.
let those
It's not
count.
a-
We can do it together.
Once again, I don't understand
They don't-
why the people of Mahoning County have transit, deserve transit, are happy to pay for transit, are happy with the transit. But the people in Trumbull
That's a
County,
broad statement. That's a broad statement. There's a lot of people that are unhappy with transit. We just had a thing on the news a month ago where a
Yeah.
person was left in the middle of the road. There's a lot of people that are unhappy with the services they provide
And
because
they-
they don't provide comprehensive services to seniors and disabled that we
100
provide.
Oh,
no, they
Hold on a
have
second.
to get federal money.
yeah.
You know how they do it? They contract with our contractors.
They still provide it. It's still provided. It doesn't matter whether they contract.
We're gonna hand them
The
$7 million to do what we're already doing.
Let me explain something else that the board completely always ignores. We have
Yeah.
the people the populations that receive for which the 5310 money, the seniors and disabled population, they have their own property tax levy. And property taxes are going up and up and up.
Not if you don't vote for them.
No, because of the revaluation. So please everyone's taxes are going up.
So
What's
every
nice
time they're
about
going
the
up,
levy-
you want to add another tax on top of it to the
Yeah.
citizens.
That's essentially what she's saying.
I'm talking.
I'd love-
Can you guys be quiet? Okay. So we were told at the
They can
beginning.
come to me.
Oh my.
They come to me if he wants to talk to me.
No.
It's been a year.
Point of order, you're having a conversation with someone. It's discussion and I'd like to have my opportunity to talk.
Go
about
ahead,
that.
continue.
So there is as I was saying, the senior and disabled population operates their services based on a property tax. When I got elected the first time in 2020, I can't remember when it was. Diane Drivkovic came in and she said that it is anticipated that we're going to have a need to increase the property taxes levy for just to provide the senior rides. And the person over the Board of Developmental Disabilities said that theirs is anticipated within 5 to 10 years that they're going to have to request an increase. By the way, those property taxes, every time they go on for seniors, they pass 80-20. So in joining WRTA, we would actually be able to prevent and fill the gap prevent that request and fill the gap of services to defray costs that could potentially be property taxes. And no one wants.
So instead of the left hand paying, the right hand's paying.
I mean, you just
Somebody's
mentioned-
paying.
You just mentioned, sir, you just mentioned. the
Okay, we'll
city of-
continue on just a little longer with this.
you
Debbie
just
Roth, you
mentioned
have.
The city of Hubbard and other cities wanting to pay for it. That's what a sales tax would be a shared taxes as opposed to the people who are living in other areas increasing their property taxes to pay for something that they could never use.
Living in other areas paying property tax?
They would be paying property taxes in order to
live
maintain.
here too.
Stop. They would be paying to maintain. Can you stop talking? Well, excuse me. Their property taxes would be funding senior services and it would not provide them any opportunity to use services for the general public. Mike,
Continue, Commissioner. They can hear you in the microphone. It's not about that over here. They can hear you out there.
yeah. Go ahead.
All right, let's move on. We're moving on to the next thing then. We're not gonna belittle the public out there.
A second.
Go ahead,
I
Deb.
got some to add to this conversation. My name is Debbie Roth and I'm the Transportation Director for ODS Transportation. So I am familiar with transportation. My question for you guys to think about, and you don't have to answer me, but put this in the process of what you're doing. We had a board that provided a service to seniors and disabled people. We disbanded that board because of the issues that were felt about the vendor. We disbanded a board that was appointed by the Board of Commissioners. So every person that sat on the board, the commissioners put there. It provided rides for seniors and disabled. Now you want to bring in RTA, which is geared to the whole general public. You're comparing apples to oranges. The service we had was for seniors and disabled, not for the general population. I, as a taxpayer in Trumbull County, the burden should not be on my back to provide for people to get to work. I get to work every day. If my car breaks down, I get a friend to take me. It's not my responsibility to pay for someone else to get there. Step up, grow up, and welcome to the adult world. Then we were talking about the transportation 40 years ago that provided school students rode on it. I can tell you, school students aren't going to ride on public transportation today.
No.
Because Ohio Department of Education has very stringent regulations. The yellow school bus is the safest form of transportation in this country, and it does not compare to public busing. That is not going to happen. But again, why are you trying to replace the senior disabled rides with public transportation? They're in two different realms of the world. And the very board that you put on there was appointed by the Board of Commissioners. So if you had a problem with the vendor, that should have not impacted the board. And if it was the board, it was your decision to put them there, then you need to fix it.
Well said. All right, can we move on from this?
Yes, please.
Okay,
So I'll take the roll for item 15, which has now become item 14.
yes,
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
yes,
Yes.
And I'll go back up to the original item number 14 to enter into a memorandum of
already-
understanding.
we did not. We flipped them and we did 15. Now we're going back up to
Just do
this.
14 and 15 together and do it that way.
She did not record the
did
vote
just
for number
read it.
14 yet. That's on, as is on the agenda.
original Number 4, we already voted for that.
This one. We didn't vote for this one yet. We flipped them and now we're getting to this one.
We voted on the
Number-
original 14.
We did not. We voted on the original 15. We did not.
We're so turned around right now. Just
We did.
let's make sure we vote on both. That's all.
I voted,
That's okay.
I voted no to flip them.
Yes.
I didn't vote no to
I-
approve it.
Let's just do it again. Let's do it again, Commissioner, so we have it on the,
Read the motion and we voted on that motion. My motion was reading that and.
okay, there was a
he
misunderstanding
voted
then.
on it.
There was
No,
a-
I
let's
voted
just
no
vote-
to flip it and then we voted on the motion to pass it, which we did. And I voted yes. Now we're going to number 14, the original 14. Look at the minutes. You can go back and review the minutes. Now this is the original 14, which is now 15 is what we are addressing now.
We've,
Item
I read the
number
motion.
14, the original 14, is to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the Western Reserve Transit Authority and the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners with respect to use and administration of federal grant funds to be issued by the Federal Transit Administration with the consent of the Ohio Department of Transportation. WRTA will provide 2 fixed routes for public transit services in Trumbull County for a period of 1 year from approximately March 2024 through March 2025. The FTA has issued a grant in the amount of $296,357 to fund the operation of 2 fixed routes in Trumbull County that will run Monday through Friday for the purpose of providing public transit services to the general public in Trumbull County.
Motion to approve.
hang on, let me just say,
Well, we got it.
the motion that I made before to reverse the order died for a lack of a second, but I went ahead and just read the motion.
It
so
did
we
not.
already voted.
Commissioner Cantalasa seconded that motion and then I voted no.
Okay, let's
to do
just get
that.
it right on the record for these
Wasn't
right
right.
now. Okay, but
Okay.
let's, if somebody misunderstood, this
You
is
have the
for
recorded right
clarity
here.
here.
So
Got
I
that
need a
right.
motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second,
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Again, yes. For the second.
Okay,
time.
so now we did 15, which was 14, and now we just did this one. Both of these have gone through and passed.
Okay,
They have. Watch it. Watch your video and you'll see. It's recorded here.
Item number 16 is to approve an agreement between the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners, Trumbull County Sheriff Paul Monroe, and Mecca Township Board of Trustees for expanded Mecca Police Security and Service within the geographical boundaries of Mecca Township, Ohio. Sheriff agrees to provide one deputy for a total of 9 hours per week. The Mecca Township Board of Trustees agrees to pay the Trumbull County Sheriff's Office the amount of $22,479.57 per year, due and payable on a monthly basis, which is to be effective January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Discussion. I, this is dated January 1st. I am hoping that they will make an effort to start doing these in advance, knowing that the trustees typically don't have meetings in December. I am expecting that the sheriff will begin doing things in a more timely fashion to make sure that we're voting on things ahead of when the contracts start. I do appreciate that they're finally making an effort to accept my recommendation by covering all of the costs associated with the vehicles, because it's important to make sure that that happens. But I would like to see it broken down, and that moving forward, that they keep track of the mileage and such, and they're not using just an arbitrary figure.
Okay, clearly you listened to the meeting yesterday. You said verbatim exactly what Major Villanueva said as far as the trustees not meeting December, that they're working towards it. I wish you would attend the meeting and not just listen to it on the meeting, just for the record. Okay, call the roll.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 17 is to approve an agreement between the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners, Trumbull County Sheriff Paul Monroe, and Bristol Township Board of Trustees for expanded Bristol Police Security and Service within the geographical boundaries of Bristol Township, Ohio. The sheriff agrees to provide one deputy for a total of 12 hours per week. The Bristol Township Board of Trustees agrees to pay the Trumbull County Sheriff's Office the total amount of $29,972.76 per year, due and payable on a monthly basis, which is effective for the period of January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes, and on 18, it should say required, not recommended.
Item number 18 is to authorize the Board of Commissioners clerk to accept recommendations from the Ohio Department of Agriculture for a registered apiary for the 2024 apiary season. The apiary inspector will be compensated at an hourly rate of $15 per hour, not to exceed $1,500, and reimbursed for mileage at the IRS standard mileage rate of 67 cents per mile. And the clerk of the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners will notify the Ohio Department of Agriculture of said appointment.
Motion to approve.
Is per the requirement of the Department of Agriculture.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 19 is to authorize the Board of Commissioners clerk to publish a legal notice for the PY 2024 general public hearing for the Trumbull County Community Development Block Grant CDBG program. The public hearing has been scheduled for Tuesday, February 13th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Trumbull County Board of Developmental Disabilities building located at 45 North Road, Niles, Ohio.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 20 is to authorize the Trumbull County Planning Commission to request price proposals from Trumbull County's licensed home sewage treatment system, HSTS installers, for owner-occupied households qualified to receive financial assistance through the county's HSTS Reserve Program, funded through the Project Year 2023 OEPA Water Pollution Control Loan Fund Principal Forgiveness Program.
I'd like to make a motion for, or ask for a point of personal privilege to get something.
Can we do this vote first?
It relates to this. have to do something.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And discussion, Bill, I had an email. I sent it to you last night. Did you receive it? Okay, so I also asked someone in our office to print it for me, the attachments and the correspondence so that I could read it here. And evidently the staff didn't do that.
You didn't
we-
request it by me.
No, it wasn't you. I didn't say that. We had issues before with a qualified bidder list that we weren't allowed to do it when I was on the Senior Services Advisory Council. And that's the same reason for the apiary issue. Someone, even if they're not set up with Trumbull County as a certified vendor, they know that they could if it was advertised. It's not a difficult process to do that. And that's why I've been saying that I believe that this is the same thing that you told us not to do when I was on senior levy, and that you're saying not to do with the apiary situation. And I'm wondering why this keeps on coming before us. And Julie Green doesn't ask you for any opinion. She just says, this is what we do. Could you please speak to that? Because I have that opinion that you gave us in the past. And I just don't have the email because maybe Amy has it and she can bring it out here if she's listening. Because it's in an email that I sent last night and asked her to print that.
Bill, you adjust the mic. I'm sorry, Bill. And state your name for the record too up there.
Sure. Bill Danso from the County Prosecutor's Office. The first thing that I want to start with you guys, and I think you all know it, but I just want to make it clear. I'm trying to come to these meetings and try to help out in that way if I can for the board. But generally speaking, the legal advice that we give to the board as a client is attorney-client communication. It's protected by attorney-client privilege. We work for the public, but we also work for you as your counsel, so you are entitled still to that privilege. If you want me to come up here and give legal analysis advice to the extent that I can, based on things that we've researched previously, I'm willing to do that to the extent that I can for the board, but I just need the board to understand that if I'm going to do this, you could be waiving privilege on this kind of stuff. And, that's why traditionally we try to do our legal advice to all of our clients in writing based on written requests, because there's less chance of miscommunication and it remains confidential unless and until the board decides to share it and waive privilege. So with that in mind, if you'd like me, if the board as a majority would like me to discuss some of this, I'd be glad to do it. Otherwise, I hesitate to do it in public because I'm afraid that we get into that issue of potentially waiving privilege without the approval of the board.
Well, I have your previous opinion and it doesn't seem to be any different in this situation or the other situation. I don't know why that this has continued to go on without another opinion. And if there is an additional opinion, knowing that I've been raising this issue for quite some time, I would have liked to see that supplemental opinion. Is there anything else related specifically to this? Because it seems like the other one covers the situation.
Well, again, Commissioner, that's what I'm trying to say. I understand your question. I appreciate your question, but I hesitate to get into too much of that legal analysis without the approval of at least a majority of the board, again, because of that issue of privilege.
Well, then here's what I'd like to do then. If you're concerned, could we table this until next week and then give you an opportunity to give us your opinion in private?
That's,
If that-
again, up to the board.
Like to do?
If you'd like to do that, you can. If you'd like for me to discuss, again, it's up to the board. You guys are the client as a
Yeah.
whole.
I wouldn't mind discussing it, but I have read your past opinions relative to this and
Past opinions don't have to deal with the different nuances that
That's true.
CDBG does and all these different things. This is a little bit different.
they actually do because they do. I mean, you sent the Attorney General sample too and referenced it. So it actually is the same.
Commissioner, do you want me to?
Yes, please.
Okay, and I will in this case, because I've worked with this a long time. I have some background knowledge on this. So just as you said, these situations are all a little bit different. All of these programs are a little bit different. There is an opinion from the Ohio Attorney General, I believe based on a request that was Trumbull County made in 2005 relative to vendor notification list. And the question there was essentially, and this is public record, this is not this is not anything with this board in particular. But what the question was is, hey, we are having trouble finding enough people to bid on our projects. Are we allowed to compile a list of vendors? And though we can't generally make personal contact with vendors prior to an award, can we create a list and send the bid advertisements out to these particular vendors without violating the law? And the answer from the Attorney General was yes. And that's where there may be some misunderstanding here. The answer is yes. You
That's
can
not the
have,
case in this instance.
you can have a vendor notification list, generally speaking. Now, the caution in there, and what we've always been cautious about in Trumbull County, is the fact that the Attorney General also said, if you're going to have a vendor notification list, you have to do it fairly uniformly across the board, because if you don't, there is a risk that a vendor is going to say, look, we were wronged in the process of even getting on the list. So this is a problem. This could be a bidding irregularity, bidding violation. This situation here is a little bit different for a couple reasons. This situation is one in which there is, first of all, these projects do not cross the $75,000 competitive bidding threshold. Okay. That's number one. Number two is this, unlike a general advertised bid, has a limited universe of vendors that are able to bid. To bid on these HSTS projects, you must be a registered, and I may get the terms wrong and I apologize, but it's a registered drain layer or something. There's another phrase.
Gary's back there. He could.
Yeah, he would probably know better. But in any case, you must be certified through the Trumbull County Combined Health District to be eligible to bid on these projects, because you can't do this work in Trumbull County without being on that list. So years ago, there was a discussion about how to do this. And there was frankly a problem with getting enough bid responses on these projects with the Planning Commission. We received very little feedback from advertising. So the question came up back then, and the decision was made that because it's a limited universe, the policy would be, we will send out this advertisement to every certified installer that's eligible to even perform this work in Trumbull County. And that has been successful in getting more people to bid. Still not a great deal, frankly, but it's been more successful in getting people to bid. If there's a person who is not certified in Trumbull County and wants to become certified, they can absolutely do that through the Board of Health, and then they would be eligible to be notified and to participate in these projects.
That's the.
Well, and that's, in some cases it has been. This one I don't believe is. There's another one, actually, I think last year, that the board approved that was also advertised.
Yeah.
That is absolutely up to the board. You can do that. You can advertise it as well as a backup, as a thing like that. But again, the truth is that unless you are certified as an installer, you won't be eligible to bid.
If we could reach the people in a direct manner,
Mhm.
directly, that's a lot cheaper than a $13,000 bid in the newspaper.
Well, and cost is part of the factor, perhaps.
1,300, I'm sorry, 1,300. I misspoke. Yep.
So we had that situation when I was on senior levy council.
Mhm.
We were having difficulty. Can we be quiet? Thank you. We had difficulty obtaining with vendor interests that related to providing in-home services and
Sure.
some other things. And those vendors also needed to be certified and to perform those duties, such as adult daycares and things like that. However, you told us in that situation that it was not acceptable. That's why.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that. You're welcome to, the board's welcome to release any correspondence on that, but all I'm saying is,
Figure out what's the difference here. because-
well, and I think that the nuance, you might want to just be sure the nuance of that opinion, that again, that Attorney General opinion is referenced that you can have a vendor note. You can legally have a vendor notification list. The detail is what's important. And that is, how do we administer it fairly and impartially? And that can be difficult depending on the type of service. I was not aware that I was aware that there's licensing for some of the senior services, but I wasn't aware that that was a limited. I think in Trumbull County, it was 20 some installers perhaps, or I can't remember. Julie Green knows the numbers better than I do, but I wasn't aware that there was a limited pool of people in Trumbull County that could do that. If that's something the senior levy committee and the commissioners, who ultimately are responsible for it, want to explore, that's fine. But I would encourage you to read our prior opinion, because I think there might be a little bit of a misunderstanding as to what exactly it said in there.
But on this agenda item right here, I think we're good to move forward. We've done our we sent it to all the licensed drain layers. Barring anybody new that would happen to do it, that would be the one
That would
was
be
left
the
out, but
only person.
we can
the
only do so much here.
the only
so
entity
we're
that-
being as
that-
transparent as we possibly can.
And the other thing to keep in mind is, you're right, another vendor could say, look, we'd really love to be on the list and we'd love to be certified. That's great. I would encourage that. We need more vendors that are certified and able to do it. The trick is, again, in the approximately 3 weeks or so this is going to be advertised, I don't know that that's practical for the combined health district to certify new people in that time. But if they do, they'd be eligible. That's fine. And, if you guys wanted to advertise as well, you could. It's up to you.
Online, if we at least advertise it online, we can say that we made an effort to let prospective vendors know.
That's
I
up,
think
again,
we
decision for
can
the board.
better, because if you look at someone does say there was pre-award contact or something like that, and we were kind of left out, we could at least point to say that we didn't spend the $1,300, we plopped it on our website. And I think that would help add a little bit of layer.
Yeah, again, that's the board's discretion on,
Can we ask that that they advertise it online at least?
I mean, that's not my call. That's the board's decision.
Let's at least get through the agenda item here today.
Sure, no, it's-
And I think that's,
If anyone's on, I know that it would be probably the auditor. I'd like to make sure that we advertise it at least on our website, just to cover ourselves in that way.
I hope that clears up
Okay.
from my.
thank you, Bill.
And I'm hopeful that Diane is on the line too, because that would be extremely helpful, because they have a hard time getting people for the senior services to be provided.
Okay.
I'd just like to amend it to say that it'll be added advertised on the website as well. It won't cost any money at all. We could just,
That's fine.
okay, thank you.
Who would be responsible for that? We need to know that.
Believe.
I mean, we can't just get up there and say it and then we don't know who's doing it, I mean, who's putting it on the website? Who would be responsible for that?
As it's being sent out, the clerk could give it to IT and put it.
Well, that would be the planning commission that it came from. So would the planning commission put it on the planning commission website? I'm just
No.
asking.
Okay, we're the commissioners.
Right,
it
but I
would be
mean,
on
you could-
our website.
But it could be on the planning commission's website too, because they're their own entity.
Okay, but we would be,
I'm telling you, they're their own entity.
okay, we approve the contracts on behalf of them.
But we're also members of the planning commission.
Right, so it would be the Board of Commissioners, Mauro. It would be on the
Does
board,
it? Okay.
where all the other contracts are listed, we would put it
Th-
there.
This is getting really ridiculous. It's
complicated.
really ridiculous.
Really not
it's-
that complicated. So we could just.
Let's vote on the agenda item as it is. I don't know. I'll make a motion to approve as is on agenda item 20.
I'll second it.
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes. And we should be advertising that. Julie, if you're on the phone, because I don't understand why you guys would oppose.
I don't understand why.
understand
we're
why this
making
is an
mountains
issue.
out of
It's
these
not an
little molehills
issue.
here.
Not a
It's
little-
ridiculous. Let's move on. We got a lot
They're
of business to
licensed
do
drain
here.
layers. There's 20 of them in Trumbull County. If somebody else
Roadblock
gets
after
cer- somebody else
roadblock
gets
after
certified,
roadblock we're going
if somebody
through.
else gets certified, they'll get on the list too.
And
don't
they-
understand.
But hang on, they are not.
They're
you
not
under-
currently. I understand.
They don't, hang on, they don't even know that there is an opportunity, because it's not on our website, nor is it being advertised. So that's why I suggested that we put it on the website, so that if someone is interested in doing it, they could apply to get certified.
They don't know that they're licensed drain layers
They-
and they're in this business.
Okay, I'm talking about in another, okay.
Come on.
Item number 21 is to amend a
With Trumbull
resolution.
County. They might be with another county, but not with Trumbull.
Item number 21 is to amend a resolution of support adopted on August 2nd, 2023. Duly recorded in Journal Volume 156, page 25882 for West Warren Development Application to the Rural Industrial Park Loan Program for the development of the area located in Southwest Warren, commonly referred to as West Lawn. Amendment is necessary to change the name of West Warren Development to West Warren Property One LLC.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 22 is to accept maintenance bond number Q95 667285 submitted by Yoho's Action Septic Tank and Supply Incorporated for the PY 2022, PY 2023 HSTS Reserve Program for one HSTS replacement in Warren Township.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 23 is to accept a maintenance bond number BX 004-1308 submitted by Proscape Landscape Contractors, funded through the PY 2022 HSTS Reserve Program for one HSTS replacement in Southington Township.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 24 is to establish the creation of the Appalachia Digital Equity Grant Fund to be known as Fund Number 226 for use by the Trumbull County Planning Commission. This fund will be utilized to receive reimbursement from the awarding entity as tasks are completed with regards to the Appalachia Digital Equity Grant. This is a reimbursable grant for $30,000 and matched with $20,000 of in-kind staff time, etc., for a total budget of $50,000.
Motion to approve?
Second that.
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item number 25 is to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to table item number 25. There was none of the qualifications were presented to the board. We didn't receive them. I tried to obtain them. It wasn't emailed at all. I searched through my emails and found out that someone had them and would be sending it today. So I'd like an opportunity to review, because none of the board has reviewed, because we didn't have it.
Motion dies for lack of a second.
Well, then, I'd like to at least request whenever you read this, that we replace William Hart with Mike Slawinski. He said he'd be willing to do that. He's also a professional engineer.
We work in tandem on this.
It doesn't say that. It has Mr. Hart, our maintenance director, and I believe that we should have an engineer as the individual who is responsible for doing that. My opinion, he said that he'd be willing to do it.
Commissioners, William Hart, Maintenance Director. This was supposed to happen 2 weeks ago. The information was given out 2 weeks ago. So
I
it
don't
should
see
be in
it
your
in my
box or bin.
email.
I gave
Nope.
every commissioner, the clerk, all
We gave
the
you-
ratings
She gave us
sheets
hard copies.
2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
yes. And it finally came back from the prosecutors and ended up on the agenda for today.
There is a grading sheet that was provided, but none of the qualifications, I have nothing that was responsive to anyone. No one gave them to me. I don't want to know. I want to review. I don't get paid and elected just to rubber stamp things. I'd like to actually review these things, and you didn't provide them to us. You didn't even send it in an email, and I would appreciate ahead of our meetings that you would send an email in advance properly, the way the agenda items are supposed to be done, with the information that is required for supporting information. Okay,
They're
Okay.
back here,
okay.
all over there. They're all in that
Sure.
Rolodex. I could send you all of the files you want. But we graded the company and here we are.
Okay.
We want to move forward with the dog pound.
Item number 25 is to approve the selection of Baker Bednar Snyder and Associates as the firm most qualified to provide professional design services for the new Trumbull County Dog Pound, and to authorize William Hart, Trumbull County Building and Operations Manager, to enter into contract negotiations with this firm in accordance with ORC 153.69B.
I make a motion to approve?
I second that motion.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Because the Board of Commissioners didn't receive the qualifications to review, it wasn't submitted properly or emailed to us with any supporting documentation, and I believe it should be our engineer who's in charge of our building department instead of our maintenance director? No.
Item number 26 is to adopt a resolution authorizing expenditure for responding to or mitigating the public health emergency from American Rescue Plan Act funds for the Mineral Ridge Historical Society. Commissioners, if you'd go to the next page. Whereas the final rule states that leisure and hospitality industries are presumed to have experienced an adverse economic impact of the specific industry experienced an employment loss of 8% or greater, and that pursuant to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the museum, historical sites, and similar institutions industry experienced employment loss of a rate greater than 8% and is therefore presumed to have been adversely impacted. And whereas the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners finds that the Mineral Ridge Historical Society is a 501c3 nonprofit engaged in museum, historical sites, and similar institutions, and is therefore presumed to have been adversely impacted. And whereas the society further states that the funds requested will assist in creating a historical walk which will improve existing green space located within a QCT and will be available for use by the general public. And whereas the final rule expressly permits investments in green space in underserved neighborhoods. And whereas the county has determined that the Mineral Ridge Historical Society has demonstrated it is an adversely impacted industry, was adversely harmed by the pandemic, and the grant request is reasonable response of the harm. And therefore, the county has determined that in the judgment of the board, the following grant qualifies as a type of project which will respond to and mitigate the adverse economic effects of the pandemic, which consist of the following: a one-time grant to the Mineral Ridge Historical Society in the amount of $20,000 to be used for the creation of a history preservation walk and memorial at the Weathersfield Township Park grounds.
Make a motion to approve?
Second the motion?
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
And item 27 goes along with that to enter into an agreement between the Board of Trumbull County Commissioners and the Mineral Ridge Historical Society as approved by ARPA Legal Counsel for the society, a 501c3 nonprofit, to provide funds required to assist the creation of a historical walk which will improve existing green space located in a QCT and a memorial at the Weathersfield Township Park grounds as fully described in Exhibit A. And the Trumbull County Board of Commissioners allocates the sum of $20,000 to the society.
Make a motion to approve?
Second?
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.
Item 28 is to allow Trumbull County employees to serve as poll workers and to be compensated with regular pay in accordance with ORC 3501.28F.
For purposes of discussion, I guess, I mean, I'll make a motion, but
I'll second the motion.
Yeah.
purposes of discussion. I wasn't here yesterday. I unfortunately had a scheduling conflict, so I don't know a lot about this. I did see, talk to the other department heads, but I haven't had a chance to talk to Edry at all on this one.
Did you
I
review the-
didn't see the email. I apologize. I'm asking that if the board would like, that we table it for a week. If not, I understand if the board wants to vote on it, but
Ready to vote on it. And I don't mind entering discussion about this as well. This would allow employees who are being paid by the county to work at the polls. So poll workers make a very small amount of money. It's
$133
for how many days? What?
for 8 hours or for the day. For the day.
For 14, yeah, it's a very small amount of pay, and they have to go to the training as well.
$25 for the training.
Yeah, so they make practically peanuts. And now to say that we're going to have our taxpayers pay for salaries and the wages of our employees to go and do that, with some of the employees making 30, 40, you don't know. I mean, an assistant director or someone could be going over to be a poll worker making $30, $40 an hour, sitting next to someone making that minuscule amount. I just disagree with this and, it's just my opinion.
That this was put into place by the state legislature. It is law under Ohio Revised Code to allow this.
Wow.
And Mayor, Edger, could you approach the mic? There are many, many other counties that do this. There's a shortage of poll workers, and the election process has to be the number one most important thing we do in a year. And if they're short on poll workers to the point where they may have to close polls, this is a means that the state legislature, state senate, and house came up with to encourage and ensure that we have enough people to support our election process, which is at the foundation of who we are. But go ahead, Edria.
Edgar McCavage, Deputy Director, Trumbull County Board of Elections. Yes, I understand anyone's concern, but if this is an Ohio Revised Code that's been in place. I just got back from a conference in Columbus with Secretary of State's office. I sent packets to everyone, just the ones that I pulled to review of the counties that are larger, like ourselves, with the amount of voters. One of the biggest thing is you don't have that in place yet. It's not just the county, they go to their cities. We're in a time in our country right now where voting is under a microscope. We try to put on a fair and safe election for every voter that comes through. We're trying to utilize this. We've been short. The Board of Elections, we have gone through the schools. We have gone through the Ohio Supreme Court has passed attorneys crediting them with CLE hours. I, being a social worker, have gone to my board, gone there. I have sent out letters. This past election, we had 4 attorneys work for us. We had 6 social workers working for us. Out of the schools, the students, they have now passed 17-year-old students could work, trying to get the support of the schools, getting children acclimated and involved in our election process. We might have had 3 schools to support this. I am now coming to you. That's been going on throughout the state, and I have everyone's documentation that I've given you that is supporting our elections to give you, especially elected officials, a safe environment for the voters and everyone involved. Many have participated. And
How many poll workers do you need, and how many typically do we have?
The other thing is, it doesn't appear that you've reached out to the cities. If the cities are.
Yes, we have reached out to the cities.
They said,
They're in the process of doing it.
okay.
And I'm reaching out to you because I'm starting right here at the top, and everything that the state of Ohio has told me to do and the recommendations of the Secretary of State.
So,
We need to staff at a full staff, 632 poll workers. And then we're required to have 20% above that. Because when I come in, not our staff on election day at 4:35 in the morning, there'll be 20 to 40 phone calls of people calling off. We are scrambling to move people to get a reserve list of people, and we're calling on the phone constantly, moving to get them placed in staff. We work on a bipartisan team. This isn't something we just throw people into. We have an aging poll worker going on right now. We have people that have been there for 40 years, and they're still coming out and doing 14 to 16 hours working at these wages. So I ask you, just following the Ohio Revised Code and the Secretary of State's office and the state of Ohio, the governors, of what's going on, and I'm asking you to pass this.
The paperwork also says, and this is from our prosecutor's office from Jason Toth, including, it has to include a standard procedure, and I don't see the standard procedure.
We worked with HR, who within time took all the ones that I gave her, put together procedures to be able to have
No, it
this done
doesn't.
today.
But
And
the
the reason
standard
why
procedure-
we're doing it
standard
today,
procedure for
excuse
deciding-
me, I just want to give you one more bit of information. We have to have trainings for these people, and anyone new requires 2 trainings, and that's not on county time or their work time. We set up trainings. They could either come on their lunch, they could come after hours, starting at 5:30. We have multiple choices for them, so that's not limited and able to, we do everything we can to work for this, but we have an election and early voting starting February 21st.
It also says that there needs to be a standard procedure for deciding, and that policy that was connected doesn't have the procedure for deciding.
Yes, it was in there. They have to go,
Standard
and
procedure for
Alex could
deciding
probably
which
hand you that.
employees are permitted. Which
Yes.
one, where does it address in here? The procedure for
You have it with
deciding.
you, Alex?
Hang on, I have it. For which employees are permitted to receive or not. There's not in case there's multiple employees.
It's all written out in there. It's spelled out. Alex has that in there.
What number is that?
Number 4, the employee supervisor or manager reserves the right to reject an application for poll worker leave based on operational need.
So that doesn't actually say what the procedure is for deciding which ones.
Yes, it does.
Now, furthermore, number 5, it's actually dictated by the Board of Elections.
Alex,
Board of Elections reserves the right to.
And I reviewed all the other counties and it's basically the exact same language.
Okay.
And you have
It
samples
doesn't
of the other
jive with
counties.
what Jason sent.
and this would be similar to like someone on jury duty. We allow them leave to go on
It's
jury
similar,
duty.
but it's not similar. So again, I want to be 100% transparent here. So we would create a code, yes, that is specific to poll pay. However, with jury duty, our employees are allowed to be paid by the county. They bring that check back to us once they're done with their jury duty and we pay it into the account to the auditor's office. So typically with jury duty, it's anywhere from $20 to $33. It's not much. It's even less than a poll worker's pay. And that employee has to give us that payback when they come back from jury duty, but we do pay them to go be on jury duty, yes. We've also baked into this policy that this will be base pay only. That is important. And one thing that I want you to consider and understand is that, and I'm going to use myself as an example, so you know that I'm being 100% transparent. I am a poll worker in this county. I take vacation, which means you're still paying me at my hourly rate to take vacation. You're still paying me. So no matter what, whether I take vacation, comp time, sick, whatever the case may be, you're paying me and I'm still getting paid by it's the same concept here. We're not losing money.
Anyone can still do it anyway. They could take a vacation day and do it.
Correct. I'm not going to deny that. That is not,
Extra.
But they don't, and that's why we have a shortage.
And we do, and that's why it's stated in the Ohio Revised Code and the governors and the other counties that are doing this, we are.
What other counties? What other counties?
We have
Mahoning, Lucas, Lorraine, Franklin, Cuyahoga.
Montgomery, and I didn't even go into the smaller counties.
In the last presidential election, I'm not debating that this is going to be a huge election and it's going to be, all the presidential elections are, but this one's especially. What happened in the last presidential election? How were we?
I
able to
can't
cover-
tell you that. I wasn't there at this
What happened
time.
in the
How-
last
how-
I
cycle?
can tell you in the governor's election last time, we ran short on polling locations. We
Closed
met minimum, but we didn't meet because of call-offs. And
Do
you
we-
can only,
in that scenario, do you have to close polling locations? Is
we
that
have
what-
not, at this time.
That's a
We've been
possibility,
able-
is what you're saying.
Absolutely. We would send our staff out. We have done that at many times, sending our staff out to help set up, till we could get someone else there. It's just what it was 40 years ago, what it is today, how elections are ran, the just doubts of the voters that are happening. We're trying to do the best we could with this. And we do have a very aging poll worker going on right now. But I'm only asking what most other counties do and what's in the Ohio Revised Code.
I'm going to be completely candid and honest. I haven't had a chance to read and digest a lot of this. So I'd like to do that before we vote on it. And if we could table it for another week, I would be very comfortable with that. I mean, it's up to you, Commissioner, but
We
I mean,
already have
okay.
for the item.
If this is going to hinder us in any way to vote today, I
I'm just
don't want to
digesting
do
this
that.
all
If
today.
it will help to have you read more into it to get
like to.
knowledge,
I'd like to, if the board would
I
allow
would
me.
appreciate that.
And at the end of the day, there is no policy in here that says how people would be selected, like the prosecutor's office says, including a standard procedure for deciding which employees are permitted to receive if multiple employees of the county apply to serve.
Commissioner, it was given to all three of you.
I have it, but it doesn't
You-
actually address that. I hear what
It
you're
does, they
saying.
have to apply within their supervisors. And
Right.
then it comes to us and we have to provide them with either a certificate that we do.
Again, I'm looking at it right now and what it doesn't include is deciding which employees are permitted if multiple employees were to apply. So there might be multiple employees in different departments with different supervisors. And then in that case, there is nothing that addresses that in this policy.
It's up to that appointing authority. Per,
It's number 4 and number 5.
I mean, it's pretty clear.
It's up to the appointing authority.
And I could show you, well, you already
Supervisor
have
can do
Mahoney
is
County's
mandatory employee,
Medina.
Can't do it. And then you said yesterday by first come, first serve, I believe is what I heard you say yesterday, to apply for it with supervisor discretion.
I think one thing that we're also forgetting is that we can have, there's 632 poll workers needed. We have 1,600 county employees. With that being said, even if 632 employees apply to work the polls, Edria and her staff have to go through and determine if they're even eligible to work the polls. Did they sign up to work the polls? What is their partisan relationship? Because we have to have for each precinct, one Democrat, one
understand this.
Republican. Well, I want to make sure you understand because we're acting like this is going to be 632 county employees potentially. If, again, there's 201,000 people in Trumbull County. If you just look at the numbers, statistically speaking, we have the right to dictate whether the employees can go or not. Edria has the right in her staff to dictate whether they're even needed as a poll worker or not. I hate to say it like this, and I know you don't trust us as department heads, but at some point you have to believe in your department heads and know that they're going to be doing the right thing here.
In the general election, there were only
That's in there.
8 county employees that volunteered to be poll workers. 8. And I sent notices out to emails to every single department head asking that they support us to send it to their employee. We had 8. 7 of them were from JFS and 1 was from county maintenance.
My only concern on this, just for the record, is we try to be as nonpartisan as possible in county government. When they come to work, it doesn't matter if they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, when they're doing their job. And when you delineate somebody, well, we need to know, are you a Democrat or Republican? Because we need so many Democrats, so many Republicans. Now, all of a sudden, I understand they are, but they all of a sudden now the department head, if an employee gets sent back, they're like, they didn't need me because they just need a Republican and I'm a Democrat. Now we're labeling somebody as a certain thing in the workplace. And I don't want to segregate the workers by, I don't care if you're working next to a Democrat or Republican. That's my only concern that I have with this.
So
I believe it's a good
addressing-
program. I just worry about that. If people.
So addressing that concern, if we weren't able to place one person that day in a particular precinct, they would go on a reserved list. We're not going to turn away people. Yes, we have to staff the precincts according to the Ohio Revised Code and have a bipartisan team, but we don't turn people away. We barely made the over 700 that are required before Election Day by the Secretary of State.
And then too, if I might ask, or might add, there's nothing that first of all, you know you're going to be a poll worker well in advance, okay? They notify us. We need to keep this in mind. The Board of Elections sends us a pink card a month in advance. So that way we can do our trainings. You know if you're going to be a poll worker. Please keep that in mind. We're not talking you just show up, every 600, county employee shows up that day and waits to see if they're a poll worker. That's not how this process works. A. B, if for some reason they were to get sent home, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but with that being said, no supervisor in this or department head would say, did you get sent home because you were a Democrat? Did you get sent home because you were a Republican? They don't need to denounce that. And furthermore, it's public knowledge. If you just go look up who our public affiliation is, You can look my name up and you'll know what my public affiliation is. So again,
I ask that you take this week
Thank you.
and do it. But I also ask that all three of you do your due diligence and call the other counties.
That's what I'd like.
Because I have heard nothing but good about this.
Yeah, on your end, but another concern I have is that if we start staffing for the poll workers with the county employees, that then there will be a reduced effort to engage the public in the participation.
I don't believe that.
And I wouldn't want them to be, I wouldn't want our county employees who are coming to do work to be prioritized with you. I would rather them be at the end of the. end of the-
Mahoney
if they
County,
happen.
last general election, they're a lot larger county. They had 15 county employees offering to
Maybe
do
they can
this.
maybe they can
That's
consider.
it.
Maybe they can consider paying a little bit more instead of.
We have to go by the Ohio Revised
Exactly. So
Code.
the Ohio Revised Code wants us as commissioners to allow us to have our county employees who make a lot of money to go and make more than the poll workers. Maybe they should consider enticing the people who are working a little bit more, because $120.
Well, I can't
for
change legislation,
14 hours.
but I do ask that you do your due diligence.
Thank
It's
you.
a civic duty in our country, just like jury duty, which I have served on, and it was one of the most experienced a good one. And poll workers, they're good people. Thank you.
Thank you, Adria. And yeah, I definitely agree. And if the board would entertain that, that'll give us a chance to talk to other counties, talk to CCAO, talk to whoever we need to. Unless you've already done it, then have at it. But I think it would be a wise thing to do to at least reach out to other counties in our association in Columbus. I'm just getting it right now. I apologize. And that's my fault. That is my fault,
So
Mr.
are we
Chairman.
voting on it, or is that a motion to table it?
I'm making a motion to table it until next week. Again.
We already had this on the floor.
That's what I was saying.
Table it after it's already been discussed.
The new motion trumps it. Unless you want to take that roll, and then we can go from there.
Originally, Mr. Cantala Mesa moved and you seconded for discussion.
Okay. So we have a motion.
But
that is-
a new motion trumps that.
So I'll second the new motion to table it.
Mr. Cantala Mesa,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
No. And then I would like to make sure that this is sent, whatever the policy is, make sure that the prosecutor's office agrees that it covers what he has listed in the fourth line of his opinion.
real quick, and I promise it'll just be a
No.
factual statement. I
Yep.
think the board.
You approach the mic. If you're going to do it, you got to approach the mic.
Commissioners, this was given to the prosecutors as well, and I do want you to please note, and when you do your research, you'll see this, that all of this was sent to you via electronically. And if you actually look at Mahoning, Lorraine, Lucas, this policy that you're saying is not a policy, 100% mimics theirs that they passed via resolution. I made sure of that. So I highly encourage you to read the documentation that was sent to you and compare it to Mahoning counties. It's exactly the same. So if you're saying this policy is incorrect, then so is every other county who's doing it. Thank you.
I'd like to still have this sent to the prosecutor's office, because Jason said, Jason, I don't have anything from them saying that it covers that line about including the procedure for deciding. So there's nothing back from them. If it was
Okay, then
sent
that's
there,
even
we
better
would
that
see back.
we tabled it then, that you could get that clarity.
Will you do that? Okay.
Okay, that concludes the regular agenda items for the week. At this time, we'll open up things for the good of Trumbull County. Anything from my fellow commissioners first?
I think we've had
Okay, hearing
a
none.
lot.
Anybody from the public wish to be recognized with your views? Yes.
Debbie Roth, I'm a resident of Warren Township. I have several questions. I'm just gonna run through them and get the answers when I'm done. We're looking to know what the total cost has gone up to on the sewer project. We'd like to know how much money do we have funds that are already secured? How much money has the county set aside for our sewer project? Why is FEMA wanting to inspect the homes that are in violation of that code? We understand they're trying to buy out our homeowners. And the next thing I proceed with all due respect to you guys, but we want to know who approved the prosecutor's office to represent Trumbull Metro Parks Board. They're a board that answers to no one. They're not elected officials, but appointed by the probate court, who claims they have no authority over them either. You as commissioners say you have no authority over them, yet they use services provided by taxpayers. The Metro Parks Board has refused to meet with us and claim that their legal counsel allegedly advised them not to do that. The legal counsel they're referring to apparently is the prosecutor's office, which operates off of taxpayer funds. You as commissioners.
That is incorrect. Metro Parks has independent legal counsel. The matter that you're speaking about.
You as commissioners now claim that you can't file an injunction because the prosecutor's office represents them. So tax-paying constituents can't be protected by the very entities that our tax dollars provide funding for. And the solution is, that we're coming up with that issue, is to send a letter to the AG's office. We'd like clarification on what question we should pose to the AG's office. Because we don't need an opinion to determine if an injunction can be filed. Common sense says that can happen. I've also been told that I'm the only voice that you hear on this matter. So I want to point out to you that I am the president of Our Lives Count, and I represent the Warren Township community, as we did in the landfill fight back in the early 2000s. That landfill fight put us in an urgent public health hazard, which is our fear with what's going to happen if that dam is removed. It's educated people that made decisions such as the dam removal situation when they cited that landfill in that area that put us in that public urgent health hazard. But if you need to see the people that I represent, we can get them here. It's just this room would not be adequately and big enough for them to be there. If you're not going to be part of a solution to a problem, then you are part of the problem. There's a solution to the problem of you being torn between the community's health and welfare, or whatever the issue is that's made you decide that you can't do anything to stop that dam removal. And I've said it over a year and a half ago that there's a thing they could do called a rock riffle, which we put on the lower side of a low head dam that's there. That creates the solution to the problem of removing the dam and the jeopardy of us being put in a public urgent health hazard again. The guys that were raised on that river have said things, told them things that have gone on. Just examples of that would be the mortar round that they found, which I'm understanding that wasn't a live round, but what else is in there that these guys have said? This is a solution that stops that issue for us. It's also a solution that allows that the kayakers and such, for all the recreational purposes that are being said that will be developed and created that the county would prosper for, that rock riffle will allow those things to move forward. And to put that in layman's terms, that amounts to putting a bunch of rocks in front of a dam. How complicated is that? I'm not an engineer, but common sense tells me that that's easily done. That dam is in good condition. It's not in danger of breaking. And if the Trumbull Metro Parks is concerned about that, then they can gladly turn over that dam and that property to Warren Township, which should rely on to begin with, because Trumbull Metro Parks doesn't even want to have discussions with us. That's John Brown, is currently running for a position of commissioner, and he doesn't even want to talk to the community about an issue because he claims it's his dam. If you need an engineer to confirm to you that this is a rational solution and it's doable, You have engineers on staff. Please ask them. You know, I saw that the support that you guys tried to give on the issue with the dam in Hubbard. And it's solely based on what I hear is the recreational and the environment. And it's a beautiful area there. And there is a lot of recreational. There's wildlife, there's waterfowl, there's the fish. It's an amazing asset to the county. I did not once hear anybody say anything about the public health issues that it could propose if that dam's removed. But yet, look at the support that those people have had, and everyone's garnering behind them. And I say kudos to that whole situation. Many years ago, I used the area for hunting deer, for hunting waterfowl, and for fishing. I'm a proponent of those things. But those very things are going to be destroyed if that dam in Lewisburg is taken out. You know, removing a dam changes all kinds of things, even to the temperature of the water that's there. It has to affect the aquatic life. It's going to affect the wildlife. It's going to affect the waterfowl. It's going to affect the very shore and banks of these rivers. And when that water level goes down, we still have septic going into there. Dilution is not a solution for pollution. And if you put it in a pipe and it goes into the water, you still have the dilution issue. And that's part of the public health hazard that we're worried about. I'm pleading with you to take consideration of things I said. And please talk to your engineers because the solution is simple and it's right there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Roth, that ask also, a lot of the discussions you had with the dam, that was all things again that were before I got here. I am very concerned about the removal of the dam for many of the reasons that you stated here, and I've talked to some of the users there. And I think my opinion probably sides a lot more with the citizens of Warren Township, including yourself. If there is another meeting or if there is another way you could facilitate something now that's fresh for me, being I was not there at that time, and asked to invite me to be there, I'd like to attend that. So if there is something that I can do, and I'd ask my colleagues too, that let's readdress this in some way to see what the people of Warren Township think. And if it is something that we can look at again, or we can look at a little deeper, I'd be for that.
Problem is the Parks Board doesn't want to have any input. They want to do exactly what is planned. They don't want to consider the alternative solution, which I tend to agree with. Warren Township safety is concerned about it, their fire department. She's not wrong, but the issue is the Parks Board. And that is a group of people that they were advised by council. I don't know who is their council. I was asking, do you know who the council is so that we can say it's not?
I don't recall the name.
Okay.
So they do have a different attorney than the prosecutor's office regarding this issue.
They've advised them
Correct.
not to engage with the citizens because there is a threat of litigation by talking about injunctions and whatnot. So that would be the advice that I think that our board would give us, you know? But no, but that's what they perceived it as, which was the reason that they gave for not meeting with,
The promise of an injunction is because they won't talk to us in the first place.
But we had an informal, we did have an, and Commissioner, you were there.
Yeah.
We had an informal meeting, I mean, rather informal, in Warren Township. We had seats set aside for the Parks Board, for the director. No one showed up. And it was left with the commissioners. Every commissioner showed up. The concerned citizens showed up. Debbie was there, and it just became nothing because they didn't show up, but they knew about it. Their attorney didn't show up, their board didn't show up, and
Yeah, we fund the Parks Board, and they can't do anything on that property unless we give them the money to do it.
why I have the position I have towards the Parks Board largely is because of their refusal to even consider the community or the input of the Board of Commissioners.
The answer to no one.
Correct. And we're stuck just like you are because we don't have the authority. It'd be nice. We do have the purse strings though. But that's. the
but then
thing.
you jeopardize the rest of the park
Rest of the
system.
park system and the great things that they do in other areas. But I don't know. I'd like to give it another shot at least that could bring them to the table, or if we have to go to their meeting, or we have to invite them to a special meeting with us. And if they don't show, they don't show, and then we take action beyond that.
You can go by yourself too. We've been.
I
there.
have
We've-
been.
We've
I
tried.
have been.
We've tried very hard. I think Commissioner Gentle Mason and I have. So
I asked like 4 or 5 questions, could I?
Well, with the sanitary sewer, the in particular of how much the cost is and where we're at as far as the funding. Gary, you can answer that better than anybody. Obviously, we're using ARP money to get this project done. We wouldn't be able to do it without it. I know,
He
but
did.
let's go over it again.
Yeah, Gary Newbrow, sanitary engineer. Yes, Commissioner, we did use 1.5 million of the ARP for the design engineering for all phases. This first phase, which includes the construction of the wastewater treatment plant, its total cost is roughly $14 million. Of that, we have over $7 million of grant funds, plus subtracting out that portion, it was ARP. And I also put in for an additional $1 million to the House Bill 33 grant program that just recently was announced. I'm waiting to hear on the status of that extra $1 million I'm trying to get for the project. Once I get that, then I'll know the finances. We'll be able to take it to a public hearing.
And then
will you send that to me? That application and the project description?
I
There's
already
someone at the
did.
State to me?
Yes, you right after I said this a couple weeks ago and told you the same thing. You emailed me the next day and I sent you the application. I sent you everything on that.
Okay, can you, I'm gonna give you an email after the meeting to forward it to someone if that's.
All right, and I think I copied the other 2 commissioners
I
on it
got-
too. Yeah, I
I got a
sent you
copy of it.
everything with that grant application, the House Bill 33.
I'll give it to get it to who it needs to go to.
when do
Okay.
we see phase one completed? I mean, this is going to be a multiple phase project, obviously, it's a
right.
large project, but when? do we-
It's all dependent on, let me hear from the state about this House Bill 33. I'd be ready to
$6
go to
million
public
in-
hearing now.
The $6 million in principal forgiveness we did secure, so
That
we're
was
in,
4 million
or,
in
I'm sorry,
principal
4 million.
forgiveness. I got $1.5 million OPWC for the
That's what it
first phase.
Yeah.
I got another 250,000 from Appalachia. CDBG, so much of that's gonna go toward the main line, so. But the project is going to be cost heavy on the front because we had to build a treatment plant.
Right.
So that's gonna make this public hearing a bit more creative for me on how am I going to come up with a capital charge? For the first phase, the capital charge is gonna be too high, and if people in the subsequent phase is gonna be too low. I want the same capital charge across all 3 phases. So I'm gonna have to,
Creative.
yes, I'm trying to figure out a fair and equitable way to make that capital charge. And I want it to be $25 per month per customer throughout the project or less. That's my objective.
That sounds fair.
Yes.
With the Ohio EPA, Gary was given the maximum amount that you can get for principal forgiveness on this project, which was $4 million, which is a testament to the work that he does, and it was scored higher than any project in the state.
Yes. The funds are secure. Oh, I'm waiting.
For one small.
The extra million will make that 1 million less of debt that I already have. I don't have to use all the loan money if I get that other million, but I do have enough funds to build it right now, but I'd like to get $1 million off.
Capital charge will be significantly less.
Yes. Yes.
And then please stick around, so when I give you the email to send over.
All right, and anything, anything about the FEMA,
That'd be Julie Green if she's on the line.
Yeah, that's not in my purview at
Gotcha.
all. On that.
The ability to call and find out these answers from, I believe we answered them last week, and you can go to.
Yeah, you've had some or maybe you haven't. I don't know if you've had some discussions with Julie on this subject
Yeah,
about
Nick-
the houses that are,
It's not part of the public record.
okay.
Well, Nick explained it, yesterday, or I'm sorry, last week. So if you even want to put it, your request in writing to find.
Line that I want you guys to be aware of is they're trying to buy out these people's home. They've lived there all their life. They don't want to leave their home.
I know. And we're trying to atone for sins of the past because they were given permits way before this board, 30
Properly.
years ago improperly, unfortunately, but now it's coming home to roost.
So if she's not responding, I would suggest going to a planning commission meeting
I'm not
because the
talking about
board,
responding.
yeah,
I have
well,
called her
I'm just saying.
because I want it part of public record. And
Well,
you
it's-
are Trumbull County. as a-
Julie should be on the line. Julie, is anybody from the planning commission on the line?
that'd be taken.
Well,
Nick answered what he was able to answer last week, and if there's anything further, I would recommend going to the planning commission.
Commissioners, can you hear me?
yes, Nick.
We can.
Nick Coggins with the Trumbull County Planning Commission. I apologize. I stepped away to take a phone call. So
Okay.
I'm not sure what the question was, but I heard you asking if there's anybody from the Planning Commission. So I'd be happy to answer with any knowledge that I have right now.
The question and concern, Nick, is that FEMA is setting up appointments with property owners that are in the issue with the FEMA reg that was broke, even though they were issued building permits before they put in there. And basically what FEMA is doing is they want to inspect the homes to gain a value so they can offer them a buyout. These people don't want to buy out. This is their home. They have lived there all their lives, their families, they're part of the community. They can't, and they don't want to just pick up and go. So the question is if FEMA can offer them money to buy their house, then why can't FEMA just use that same money and put that house on stilts so it's in compliance? It's just, it's kind of just doesn't make any sense to us.
So FEMA had identified houses in the report that they considered in violation. Part of our guidelines as the floodplain administrator is that we were required to enforce on them, or if we chose not to, we could potentially lose insurance for the whole county. And that started this project. What is happening right now is actually the commissioners have approved ARPA funding to do these studies that apply for alternative remediation. So to be in full compliance, you either need to be out or fill in your basement. There's a variety of other things to be in full compliance. What is being done right now is the commissioners have awarded funds to help us do these site-specific studies that could result in alternative remediation. So maybe not full compliance, but each house has to be done individually. That is some of the things that's going on. So there is not a requirement to get bought out, but part of this study is to find that if those homeowners choose the option. There are most of the homeowners do not want that. There are a couple that are, but we need that information. That's what those studies are being done for, and that's what that appraised value is being for. So FEMA is actually not offering any money to buy out. That would be the county going after a separate Clean Ohio fund if those homeowners chose to be purchased. Okay. And then if we get to a point where the homeowner does not want to be bought out and we have a remedial action plan to bring them within an approved compliance by FEMA, we would then go and seek other funding to potentially put them into that remedial compliance as defined by that scope of work. But what is actually being done now is just getting the information to put together a plan so FEMA can approve a remedial scope of work, which they will not approve whatsoever without these studies being done.
Okay, so that's what Trumbull County is doing, but what I'm trying to tell you is that FEMA has contacted these residents and wants to come and inspect their entire homes. Now, there's nothing on the inside of the home they need to look at at this point, because you don't have the studies back, so we don't know what the resolution or the remediation is going to be required, but they've been told, the residents, that FEMA is looking to buy them out. Well, they don't need to do that yet if there's a possibility that there's remediation that can be done to allow them to be in the home. So you don't have any knowledge, I guess, of what FEMA is doing because you're not FEMA, and I could understand that. So I guess I'm going to bring that to a point of now we all know what they're doing.
Well, I think there needs to be a point of clarification. FEMA should not be working at that level. If they are, we will get in contact them and we'll clarify that with our FEMA rep. But I think what some of those residents are looking at is the notification from either our office or our consultants referring to the FEMA reporting and action, remedial action plan to take place, as that is one of the options. If you have more information, you could point to something that, this is, if you have the letter from FEMA or the contact, you'd be more than welcome to come down to our office. We'd be glad to look at it and make sure that we clarify anything.
So maybe a better part of it would be is communication can clarify all these things. So perhaps the Tribune could do an article, talk to you guys and let us know exactly the process and where it's going so that in layman's terms, these residents can understand. And that stops a
Well,
lot of the conspiracy theory that's alive and well in Trumbull County.
I think what Nick's trying to say is they're trying to exhaust the remediation set of it before we talk about any sort of displacing these individuals, the
But I'm
remediation
saying,
is
could you
first.
let the people know, this is what we're doing. We're trying to get this remediation
According to
done.
Nick, they've gotten contact with.
Hang on, there's a disconnect here. We're the Board of Commissioners, though we serve statutorily on the Planning Commission Board. That is this conversation that's going on right now should be at a Planning Commission meeting. And I
agree.
hate to
I agree.
be the one, but this is a conversation. We authorized funding. I recommended it. It was something that I wanted to do to help those people, and Commissioner Cantal Mesa agreed that we were going to spend the money on that study to find out what could happen. That is the extent of the Board of Commissioners' involvement. So this should be communicated with them relative to all the information. This is like a side, we're sitting here with your sidebar conversation with the Planning Commission because that's where the question should be directed. So that's what needs to happen, because our commissioners' meetings are really not to just be an intermediary so that you can communicate with another board.
So does the Trumbull County Commissioners control any of the other boards in the county?
No, we do not control boards. Boards are statutory bodies that sometimes we have a statutory requirement to serve on the board. Sometimes we are required to make the appointments, but we are not that. We get so many, I know I do. I get people calling about housing because it says Trumbull County Metropolitan, everything that you can imagine that says Trumbull County, people think is us, and it's not. So the Planning Commission Board, we serve on per statute, but this is a matter for planning, and their meetings are Tuesday, at 9, what is it, which Tuesday of the month?
It's
Second Tuesday.
Commissioner, it's the second Tuesday of the month at 9 a.m. here at our
And
office.
that is a public meeting. Like you said, you want it on the
Yes, it is.
record. It would be on the record at that meeting.
That's where it would be logged as an appropriate place, and then you will have the people on that Planning Commission Board hearing, and then they could help in a better fashion than we can.
So were you guys aware of FEMA making these appointments to?
I was not, no. And I know that now Nick is aware of it, and we'll get to the bottom of it with his.
I was aware of some court actions, I believe, that they were involved in Judge Rice's court in regards to FEMA dealing with landowners. But
So my last question is do you control what the prosecutor's office accepts to represent?
No, we have no control over that. That's a separate elected official. It's a separate office. We can only request things from them with the majority of the board, and that is the extent of it. So
why were you guys talking at the last meeting about Howland using the prosecutor's office more than you guys do?
that is an agreement, because they are required to have counsel, and they have an agreement with the prosecutor's office between themselves. And as the executive body for the county, we have to approve contracting because they cannot contract on their own. That's what our body does. So every commissioner's contract, every sheriff's contract, every auditor's office comes through us, and that is our statutory duty, but we have nothing to do with what they do. That is just our job.
But you have approved a contract for them to contract with Trumbull Metro Parks for $1 a year?
I don't recall. I would not have voted for that because I take exception to some of the things that are going on there. And I don't know, Miss, are you the statutory, or do you have a contract with them to provide the services?
Again, Bill Danso from the prosecutor's office. We have represented Trumbull Metro Parks pursuant to a contract for about 5 or 6 years now. It is every year approved by the Board of Commissioners. I'm not sure how you voted. You may have voted to disapprove it. I don't know. But before that, the Metro Parks Board, who is funded by the Board of Commissioners, was paying council out of the funds that you guys allocated for them. As a courtesy, look, we get $1 a year in the prosecutor's office. Okay, we're not making money. We're not doing a lot with that dollar, frankly. Okay, but we have represented them as a cost savings measure to the county as much as we could. You know, that's really the genesis of this, was to try to save you guys from having to allocate that extra money to the Metro Parks Board. We've done it for years. We're willing to do it. I understand now it's a point of contention for whatever reason, but just understand that that's the genesis of this. That's why we started to do this, was to try to save money for the county who funds Metro Parks.
In the spirit of cooperation
Absolutely.
between departments to try to save money. There was nothing, you know, obviously that's what we try to do here, is if we can do it. You know, the Parks Department is a department of one. They reached out to the prosecutor's office for assistance. Are you going to gouge another department, or are you going to try to assist them? And that's how it all started.
And I would also say this, you know, it's come up, I think, a fair amount lately about, you know, why aren't the commissioners doing this? Why aren't the commissioners? I would just say, as a general principle, that I think, you know, everybody in the public should understand is the commissioners, and you guys know this too, the commissioners are not in charge of the entire county.
Right.
The commissioners have very specific statutory roles, and the way county government works, much like state government, I believe, is that you only have the power that the statutes give you. You don't have universal power unless the statutes tell you otherwise. So when we look at what can the Board of Commissioners do, that's the first thing. You can only do it if you can find a statute that says you can do it. So I just would throw that out there too, just so people understand that. And I think it is, again, a common misconception that people have is, hey, you're the commissioners, you must have overarching authority over the whole county, and that's just simply not the case.
Thank you for explaining that. and
Thank you, Bill.
With all due respect, you did approve the contract
With the,
for them to represent Trumbull Metro Parks.
as a cost saving measure, yes, of course, we would do that every year.
And I'm just pointing out that they're an entity that
The-
has you
Well,
are
then-
accountable to the constituents and the voters. They're not even accountable to that.
Another thing that we could do is that I just want to say this. When the probate judge is appointing his board, rather than just putting the same people on every year, sometimes, and what some boards do is they will put an attorney on the board so that they can provide those services without on behalf of the board, instead of having to pay other services. And I think that that would be the best thing. Although I have no control over that, I think that that would be better for us to save money, find a volunteer who wants to serve on the board, who can also serve as
Good luck
a
with
local
that.
council.
Good luck with
Well,
that.
I mean, we've
Let me
seen
point
it.
out that Steve, that's on the Trumbull Metro Parks Board, is an attorney.
And they have an engineer on their board as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, they do.
Put them to work.
Okay,
Not
moving on.
Legal
I
counsel.
mean, you can though.
Anyone else have anything for the good of Trumbull County?
My name's Del Kutchta. And I was just wondering if Commissioner Frenchco has a microphone. Because we can barely hear you back there. Everybody else is using the microphone, including me. I just wondered why you don't.
Sean Shook, Trumbull County resident. I'm curious, what day is the workshop? Is it Tuesday or is it Wednesday?
Tuesday.
Typically,
Are we sure?
but if
Because
there's
the
a
open
holiday,
meeting Sure seemed like a workshop. Now, I understand that Commissioner Morrow had a conflict of scheduling yesterday, and you usually attend the meetings. However, Ms. Frenchco never attends the Tuesday meeting. And she comes in here and she creates chaos and dysfunction on Wednesdays. And it's a slap in the face to everybody who's taking time to be here. Almost all the things that were debated here today were discussed in the workshop yesterday. Now, you know she's listening to the meetings because she comes in here and addresses things that she hears in the meeting from yesterday. But yet she doesn't attend because that way it gives her a chance to come in here and create chaos on Wednesdays. It's disgusting. Another thing I would like to address is, I think there might be an issue moving forward, and I'd like to ask the board to not allow Commissioner Michelle Nicole Frenchco to vote on anything that Debbie Roth is connected to for conflict of interest. Michelle Nicole Frenchco just used Debbie Roth in a legal battle against me as a witness. So for her to vote on anything that Debbie's connected to would be wrong. And by the way, as far as I could tell, Ms. Frenchco is still moving forward with her appeal. I just got a notice that she's bringing a lawyer in. I think his name was Kenneth D. Myers out of Cleveland. Anybody wants to look into him. I guess he doesn't care about stomping on my rights with her. Another thing I'd like to address is, Mr. Malloy, you addressed yesterday in the workshop, you talked about the voting, something about if Democrats want to vote Republican in the March 19th primary, that they can do that very easily, that they just have to ask for a Republican ballot at the time they vote. Is that correct?
Correct. We just sat with Edgery yesterday.
So for example, if
Procedure.
somebody went on March 19th and wanted to vote for Rick Hernandez, but they're a Democrat now, but they want to go vote for Rick, then they could do that simply by asking for a Republican ballot when they get there. No, I'm asking a question. He addressed this yesterday in the meeting. So I'm just,
It was brought up
He opened the
without
door.
using names of anything, but
I was just using an example.
we have open primaries or people come in and choose whatever party they want. They don't have to go and pre-register or do anything.
Okay. All right.
And that was addressed by our deputy clerk yesterday as far as when the voting is, when you could start voting, what the procedure is in regards to the judges and what they have to look at when they're there with these employees. So that's where that was pertinent to.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name is Robert Plan. I'm a resident of the city of Warren. I'd like to say that I oppose 1000% the commissioners using tax dollars to provide bus service in Trumbull County. And my question to all of you is, why are the rides free? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Comments?
Mike Salamone, you want to comment on that?
Mike Sal, my Trumbull County Transit Director. You're talking about the WRTA rides are free. The reason they're free is when COVID started, a lot of transit systems throughout the country offered free rides. WRTA just made the decision to continue doing free rides.
They're funded by a tax in Mahoney County.
Correct.
That's why they're getting free rides in Mahoney County.
We don't have to provide free rides in any law or any ORC, anything.
No.
We could charge people to ride a
Right, yeah, I
bus.
mean, for our service that we're doing right now, we are charging $2 no matter senior or disabled. But
So our seniors and disabled are paying for rides.
But
But if
Mahoney
people
County-
want to get a public ride on a bus, we pay for them through tax dollars. They don't pay themselves. Not even a quarter, not 50 cents, nothing.
Explains that today, by the way.
It's all public. So even the ones for seniors and disabled.
Right,
they're
everything's
still
free,
public.
everything's free in at WRTA. That was a decision that
Everything's
was
free.
made by their board.
No, I'm saying
not
even,
free.
even the ones that are through seniors and disabled that are $2 a ride, they're still public. I just don't know if he realizes, because he said he's differentiating WRTA from that. They're all public rides. They're all public services. They're just provided.
It's public
from-
services, but not
Right.
public.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're just
that's not the
different.
general public.
Right.
That's what, yeah, but that's the reasons WRTA made the decision at one of their board meetings, I don't know when, just to stay with free rides.
And we voted to allow that
No, we
as a
had nothing to
board,
do
or we
with
just
We're not a
go with
member of
what they said?
WRTA.
We had
We're
nothing
not
to
a
do with
member.
it.
Like, we've been over this a million.
One of the
times.
reasons why we're not a member.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. Why are we giving free rides out? We're not even charging them 50 cents.
To you.
No one
you-
paid for my gas today. No one paid for his gas today.
There is
No
a-
one,
To you, there is a board that makes those decisions. It has nothing to do with us.
that's right.
We would be outvoted on that board if we were to join.
Okay. go ahead.
He does, you can explain a million times and some people. just don't get it.
WRTA decided to keep, they're not the only, I think Kansas City doesn't, isn't it Kansas City doesn't provide the amount that they make on fares is minuscule because what comes in that people could afford to pay. Plus they have to maintain all the fare boxes, and it also slows down the rides. They can get people on and off much quicker when they don't pay. And you have to subtract what it costs from the fare. The Business Journal article explains it today, gives you numbers.
Okay.
I have no idea. I don't know what's going on out there. We all got the same email.
Would you like to wait or would you like to continue?
No, I don't, she don't listen anyway, so.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Glenn, City of Niles. On number 20, excuse me, can you close the door? On number 20, I just encourage you once again, as I've said here before, try to keep the bids and the money in Trumbull County for any and all work that's going to be provided. I think over the weekend, the Trumbull County Road number 69 is Pine Avenue going from Warren to the city of Niles. In the paper, the Warren City Fire Chief, Mr. Nussel, was quoted as saying that there's a 36-inch pipe collapsed under there.
And he's right in the middle of talking here. Please don't interrupt. He didn't interrupt you. Go ahead.
He also stated that he didn't know who owns this 36-inch pipe. I know there's a couple different jurisdictions there, City of Warren, Howland Township, Weathersfield County. Like I said, it's road number 69 and going into the city of Niles. The rains that we received last weekend, when you get rain like that, there's nothing you can do. You close the road down. There's a couple businesses down there, the Warren City Bus Garage, the pavers are down there. And if you could please have the engineer look into it.
That's something that's been a problem for 50 years. The road was built too
understand.
low and it was horrible engineering when it was built. And now we're paying for those sins, and it'll be a lot of money to raise a road or to redo a road on top of that, because it is well below the level where it needs to be.
Correct.
And
But
horrible engineering at that
with
time.
Kimberly Clark potentially doing something. on that
Things will be
property,
addressed. So there'll be probably some private, public entity thing there to rectify it at that time. Right now, we just don't have the funds to go out and just raise roads because at this point. So it is an issue that we know about. There are alternative routes, and it's something that unfortunately there isn't a big pot of money to go and do that. And there hasn't been addressed for 40 years, and it should have been.
Well, I know we still own acreage on that property. That Kimberly Clark didn't take the whole footprint, but
Correct.
if there's soil to be used or gravel, whatever, for this project, I'd encourage you to take advantage. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we will go to the phone lines quickly. We're way beyond schedule. People got to get back to work and back to their lives. Hit *6 if you have something pertinent to the county. And unfortunately, we are going to go a little quicker than normal. We'll let you speak, but if it's something that's been addressed already or something that can wait, let's move on quickly. Go ahead. Identify yourself and where you're from.
It's Amanda Aber, Warren, Ohio. I just wanted to say a couple things right quick. Firstly, I know the posting for the warden closed last week, and I just want to encourage the board and the HR department that when they look through the applications, that they pay particular to the experience portion of the requirements, because it is more than just feeding and cleaning and walking a dog. There's a lot to deal with behavior here so that experience portion of the requirements is pretty important. Also, I heard during the workshop yesterday, everything that is moving forward with the POW, which I'm really happy to hear. And I heard you guys talking about the raising a fund. And I just want to be really clear. In our world, we will nickel and dime a new pound together. They're not going to be large donations. That's a rarity. Most donations are going to come $5, $10 at a time, and that $5, $10 at a time is just as appreciated as the larger donation. So I just wanted to say that real quick. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We certainly recognize that, Amanda, and that's why we're willing to commit to a large investment when the time comes, and we've already started that, so.
Okay, next caller. Is there another one, Tim?
No, that's it.
Nope. Okay,
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
Mr. Cantala Mesa.
Yes.
Mr. Malloy.
Yes.
Ms. Frenchco.
Yes.